Shalom. This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. I want to start off by saying thank you to all of our Booster Club members for your many donations and much more, your prayers. We visited faraway countries and strange lands. We've even spoken to dignitaries and were detained for spreading the glorious gospel in Cuba. The truth is that the descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel were scattered throughout the world. Help us on our journey as we continue to raise up the nation of Israel. 12 tribes worldwide. Join or donate today. Shalom.
So as these celebrities continue to come forward and speak up, because it's showing that the word of the Lord is moving upon the spirit of our people. Now, there's something that needs to be said concerning a lot of our people that's waking up, because it's just like any of us that when we first wake up, we are happy about the truth. And we come out on the we can't wait to challenge. You're trying to tear every Christian up, trying to tear every Jehovah's Witness up. I used to do it. When I first came into this knowledge, and it was just a few years, it was a couple of years after I had, after I was heavily into Africanism. I was heavily into Islam in terms of following. I didn't go to the mosque and all that other stuff, but I would follow a lot of what was being said because it was new wine. From that, I was just going to work with a shirt tie, preppy, with my little attaché case. I was work management for an electronic chain in New York. So you couldn't tell me nothing. I was going to college at the same time. You dig what I'm saying. But and I came into, I'm trying to remember what it was. I remember it was an incident that happened where I was dealing with one of the customers that came into the business, and we began to talk about needle styluses. I'm just sharing you some stuff. Needle styluses on your records, and it was an Ephraimite. And he came in, and I was telling him about the different styluses. You have what is known as elliptical stylus and the sapphire. There were different needles. The one's called elliptical. I forget what the other one is. I used to know all that stuff. But the different kinds of needles, and I was telling him, well, this one has diamond. Yeah, there's a diamond point, and it's better on your records and blah, blah, blah. So talking and all of that stuff. And he said, do you know where those diamonds came from? Ephraimite. He was a biker messenger with his gloves on and all that, his bike outside. And I'm trying to sell him a turntable or whatever, a cartridge. And he says, you know what agony that the people, because he was just, talking about I think there was a documentary at that time called Blood Diamond. I don't know if it came out way back then, but I remember seeing it in a couple of magazines. And I even had a National Geographic magazine that talked about the diamond saga, if you will, that was going on in Africa, where they were making the people go down into the mines and mining diamonds, and would give them laxatives to make sure that they were not ingesting and hiding the diamonds. So they would check their stool. Yeah, that's how serious it was. But I didn't know any of this stuff at that time. You dig what I'm saying? So the Ephraimite was schooling me. He was saying, it's a shame that you black people don't know nothing about yourselves like that, So I was like, oh, hell. I said, he put me on Front Street, So after that, level of consciousness began to really take hold. Now, if it was never in my spirit to even be interested in that, I would have just brushed it off. But when he said it, it caught something. You dig what I'm saying? It put me on the path to start looking. So there were several events that led me to where I am today. There was, different people that come into your life. The Most High does this. So it went from there. And by the way, I never saw the Ephraimite brother again, but he was sharp. Hope he find his truth. Perhaps even if I see him now, I probably won't even recognize him. He could be sitting in here. I don't know, because, it's one of those things that happened. This was in 80, what year was this? 1988. And so from 88, 89, 1990, I was listening to a lot of things on the radio. WLIB. How many of y'all saw the Bible Book of Our Fathers last night? Okay, a lot of y'all perhaps didn't see it. On that program, I played a audio clip from 1988 that I recorded off the radio. And you know what? I might want to. Yeah, I think I have it here. Hang on one second. I'll get it out, but I'm gonna finish telling my story real quick. So when I was listening to the radio, and I was on this binge to record everything, because knowledge, you hear you hear a slither of information here, a little sliver of information there, and as a matter of fact, let me see, Public Enemy was out. I think 1987 they started coming out. 86, 87. So I was coming around even then. 88, 89. In the 90s, you had, I was in the school then. 89, Fight the Power came out. So there were different records. Anyway, to make it short and brief, a level of consciousness was coming into me. So I would the minute I began to learn certain things, I wanted to get back to the point of why I brought all of this up. When I began to learn about this truth, I was actually trying to teach what I knew in the store when I was working there. And there was Jehovah's Witnesses that lived in the buildings around where I lived at. I see them walking out in the street in the park with their comic books. I used to go out to run out there with a Bible, tearing their behind up. Because it was like you just want to just challenge and tear, because you just learned about this. You dig what I'm saying? You just learned about this truth, and you said, man, the whole world need to get flipped. So I was attacking everybody, and it was a good thing. And the first time you make Jehovah's Witness run, you got something. Because they are something else. They'll knock on your door, and before you get to close your door back, they put the foot in it, and they try to wedge their way into your house. That's what they literally did, But, when you hit them with the truth and tearing them up, then they trying to run away from you. So that was a bit of fun. But I mentioned all of that because I was talking about these brothers, these people in the media, Nick Cannon, who are some of the other brothers? What's that? Sean Jackson. And there's plenty of them that's speaking up, that's mentioning things now. And when they learn this knowledge, immediately they throw it out there, but not realizing that there's going to be a backlash. So you have to learn this thing and learn about the trials that's going to go with bringing this out. You're talking about bringing out truth into a society that is completely wicked. This society don't want to acknowledge the word of the Most High at all. So you have to be aware that when you're dealing with this truth, this Bible and the information in it is basically like a loaded bomb. It's like a bomb. You dig what I'm saying? They consider you a terrorist for reading this. And you have to be aware of that when you get this truth. Y'all dig what I'm saying? So when Deacon Malachi, because we had talked about it, Deacon Malachi had made the point that for new brothers coming into this truth, you're learning about it and you're very excited and you want to go tackle the world. Many people ain't ready to deal with the onslaught of resistance that's going to come. And then they'll have you looking crazy when they attack you, like they're doing with our brother Nick Cannon now. They tearing him up. They're tearing him up, I imagine, I think maybe Bishop might speak on it today. I haven't spoken to him in a couple of days, but he may deal with that situation. So I'm going to leave that section alone. But you get to see how the challenges, how they challenge you when you come up with this truth. So the best advice that's given to our brothers when they first learn this, be excited about it, yes, but either come into the truth and learn fully about it before you put yourself on the front lines, and support from the back end until you're strengthened in your faith, ready to go to war when you pull this Bible up, because that's what it's going to mean. Y'all all right? All right. So, with all that being said, again, the miseducational conspiracy against the oppressed Israelites. And one of the reasons why I wanted to speak about this particular subject was because, like I said a couple of weeks ago, when I was with Bishop, we was in Savannah, and he was bringing out the information about what happened in Spain. The Israelites, the Moors in Spain, the blacks, so you can understand. That's what the word Moor means. The blacks in Spain were being overthrown by the Edomites that had taken Spain back. They had not only taken Spain back, but they also took back Rome during the time at the war at Constantinople in 1453. That was the year that happened. So 1453, coming up to the when they took Spain back, they also took back. They took back Rome and they took back Spain. They took Rome back from black rulers that ruled Rome from 193 AD all the way up to 1453. That's what I was bringing out last week when I was showing about the Jews, the gladiators that was brought into the arenas. Okay, so I know I'm doing a lot of talking. We're getting ready to get into the scriptures in a minute, but I just want to just bridge the gap. So in Spain, when the Spanish came in and took and overthrew Spain, they pushed the Israelites, the Moors, the black Jews, so you can understand, pushed them out of Spain into Portugal. And then from Portugal, more persecution came, and that was when the Inquisition and those other things came about. The Inquisition that happened in Spain and Portugal, Columbus and his hordes was a part of that Inquisition, and the people that was around during that time was a part of that Inquisition. And as well as while they were destroying the Israelites, the Jews that was in Spain, they had also sent conquests out to destroy the Israelites that was in Hispaniola, that was in the North, Central, and South Americas, quote unquote Columbus voyages. So all of those things was happening at the same time. So while they was persecuting us in Portugal, they were also destroying us in Spain, in Santo Domingo, in South America, in Central America, and in North America. Hence the Conquest of Paradise when you watch that movie. The 1492 movie, that's what I'm talking about. 1492, The Conquest of Paradise. In that movie, they're talking about the overthrow of the black Jews that was ruling in Spain. That's what that movie was going into in the lands that the scripture speaks about in 2nd Ezra. Okay, so let's see where we're going to go at. Show me my first, I put a picture up there, The Greatest Secret. Put that up there. Because I'm gonna go through the rest of the information that I have here, and I got quite a bit. So again, this right here is a book. Now, this was in the, I had picked this book up in the 80s. I had picked this book up before I came into the truth. I picked this book up, and I also picked up another book that the elder Yaquab had written called A Change of Worlds. Okay, now a lot of people don't know nothing about that because it was a paperback book. Y'all dig what I'm saying? I should have brought a picture of it, but you'll know what it was. Bishop knows about it. Between me and Bishop, I don't think anybody else knows about this unless you were actually in the old school. But this was a book that he had actually, it was Yaquab, Masha, and Ariel. Those were the three that had written the book, and it mentioned Yeshaya and the other seven. They actually had those pamphlets inside the bookstore that I used to go to. So when I bought that, I also bought this. And I began to read about this, and at the same time, around the same time, I saw the brothers teaching on public access. And then I started finding out where the camps were. Then I went down there with my tape recorder and all of that and started listening. And I said, well, where y'all school at? And then they told me the school was at 1 West 125th Street. And I went in there on a Wednesday. And that's when we call him High Priest then. High Priest Kazak was the one that was teaching on Wednesday. And that was the one that told me welcome home when I came in. So that's how all of that happened. So I'm just giving y'all a brief history, a little bit about y'all. Y'all all right? Can y'all dig it? All right, all praise to the Most High. So this was the book that caught my eye. The front of it says the truth about black biblical Hebrew Israelites, the Jews. But it was that question under it. Can you zoom in and read what it said there? And I know we touched it last week, so I'm not going to do the same thing all over again. Move it down. Want to get all that. So it says the world's best kept secret. That grabbed me. Just like all of us so-called Negroes want to be deep. We want to know what nobody else knows because we want to feel that novelty. You dig what I'm saying? I know something that you don't know. That kind of thing. So when I saw this, I'm like, well, why are they trying to hide this information? Let me figure out what it is. And the question was, what happened to the true black Jews in the year of 70 AD? That question was on that book. But as I continue to be in this truth, as I continue to go through the years in this truth, I come to find out that is a real question. It is a real question to the point where you would read, like we was reading. I'll give you an example. Let's get the Bible. Luke 21, let's just touch that again. Luke 21, verse 20 to 24. I'm going to go through this quick.
This is the book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
The desolation was the destruction that Moses spoke about in Deuteronomy. And this is Christ speaking to the Israelites that was in Jerusalem at this time. Okay, you had Judah, Benjamin, and Levi primarily, and stragglers of other tribes that was there after Israel went back to rebuild in their land after King Cyrus had overthrown Babylon. So some of us were still there in Jerusalem at this time. So during this, thank you, brothers. During this time, the Israelites was there. So you had Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and stragglers of the other tribes that was there. But the majority of Israel had already come to this side of the world. Okay, in the Americas and the islands of America, Puerto Rico, Santo Domingo, which was actually called Hispaniola at that time. Levi had not yet come over there because that came during the time of the 1600s with the slavery and, around that area. So that's the time period that Christ is talking about. Read it again.
Verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Go ahead.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
And let them which are in the midst of Jerusalem at this time leave, because Jerusalem is about to be overthrown. That's what Moses had written. Go ahead.
And let not them that are in the countries.
And let not the Israelites that are scattered abroad, like you read in James 1 and 1, Acts 2 and 5, and also coming up to these times here, the Israelites that was on this side of the world. Go ahead.
Enter therein too.
Let them, read that statement again, and let them, read that verse again.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
That's the kingdom of Judah. Go ahead.
And let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
And let the Israelites that are still in Jerusalem, let them leave. Go ahead.
And let not them that are in the countries enter therein too.
That's the part that I wanted. And let them that are in the countries that are already scattered abroad, don't let them come to Jerusalem, because we used to have to come to Jerusalem, like Acts 2 talking about, for the day of Pentecost. Okay, so at this time, there was no coming to Jerusalem, because Jerusalem is about to be destroyed, according to prophecy, for our disobedience. Read.
For these be the days of vengeance.
Why? Because these be the days of the vengeance that Moses wrote about, that these laws were given to us on condition. If we kept the laws of the Most High, then we would be blessed. If we did not, we would lose our homeland, we would lose our heritage, we would lose everything. Go ahead.
That all things which are written may be fulfilled.
Read.
But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days.
Go ahead.
For there shall be great distress in the land.
Because the Romans was going to come in with a fierce murdering spirit to kill our people. Go ahead.
And wrath upon this people.
And wrath upon the Israelites for disobedience. God was going to allow the Romans to destroy us.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
And the Israelites fell by the edge of the Roman swords when they came in.
and shall be led away captives into all nations.
And the Israelites shall be led away captive into all nations. That's the part that I wanted to get to. And the Israelites shall be led into captivity under all nations. So, what verse was that?
24.
Read that again. Read 24.
Verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations.
And the Israelites shall be led away captive into all nations. Go ahead.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
And the Israelites shall be, and Jerusalem shall be walked upon by the nations. That's what the Gentiles are talking about. Until the time of the nations be fulfilled. Let's use the word Gentiles there, because Gentiles is another word for nations. When you look it up in the Bible dictionary, it says Gentiles. The meaning of it, it says usually it means a non-Israelite people. And the reason what a lot of people in the churches don't understand this, T.D. Jakes and the rest of them, they don't understand this. The mere fact that they put the word usually in front of it means because most of the time when you read the word Gentiles, it does talk about a non-Israelite people, like the definition would say. But why is it using the word usually? Because there are cases where the word Gentiles actually means the nation of Israel, means the Israelites. Y'all understand that? But in this case here, it's actually talking about the actual nations, not Israelites. Read that 24th verse again, and I'm going to get back to my point.
Verse 24, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations.
And they shall be led away captive into all nations. That's the part that I want. Now, with that understanding, this is where this comes in at. What happened to the true black Jews in the year of 70 AD? That's the time period that we're reading in the Bible. So the question is, when the Bible says that they shall fall by the edge of the sword and the Israelites shall be led away captive into all nations, where is the history that's being taught in school that explains what happened to the Israelites after 70 AD? You don't hear nothing about it. It's very hard to find. They don't talk about it. It's almost taboo. It's a mystery. Nobody knows. You dig it? So that was what was intriguing to me. I said, well, where's the history there? It's a big question mark, just like the book says, right? Now, when you bring it to the so-called Negroes and the slave trade, they say, well, where does your history begin? They say begin basically in 1620. With the slave trade. So I said, well, where's our history prior to that? They just say, oh, you was just Africans just swinging on trees, running around with bananas, big lips, whatever they would say about it. But that was it. So you didn't really get any real connective history, as if we just started existing when the so-called Africans began to sell us. Well, I said, well, how were we before they sold us? Nobody knows. Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean Africans sold us? But I thought we were the same people. They was on talk shows, the so-called white man would make black people look bad by saying, what are you mad at us for? Your own people sold you. And our people get silent because they don't know the history. It's not that our own people sold us. Africans sold Jews. That was the mystery. So the question is, what happened to the Israelites after 70 AD? And where was us prior to the 1600s? It's a big mystery gap. Y'all dig it? That's what we want to talk about today. Y'all all right? What's the name of this class? The Miseducational Conspiracy. It's a conspiracy to miseducate the Israelites, the oppressed Israelites that the Bible speaks of. Give me Deuteronomy 28. 29 is what I really want, but you can start with 28.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 28. And the Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart.
And the Lord shall smite the Israelites with what?
With madness.
With craziness, out of our mind. This is indicative of racist teachings. This is indicative of a educational diet that was against our very existence. It will lead you to madness if you know nothing about yourselves. It will lead you to craziness if you have no accountability where you can talk about your ancestors. It will lead you that way. We just popped up? And being that you don't know anything about yourselves, if you don't know your own history, any history will do. Or any his story will do. How about that? Read that again.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness.
And the Lord shall smite the Israelites with craziness. Go ahead.
And blindness.
And blindness. Our people are blind. Our leaders are blind. Our preachers are blind. We were talking about that with these leaders, with these ministers. Go ahead.
And astonishment of heart.
And astonishment of heart. Astonishment of heart, meaning that, well, the heart is talking about your mind. To be astonished in your mind, meaning that you must know something about where you came from or have an idea of where you came from. People, it is astonishing to know that as great as we are, look at the condition that we're in. That's an astonishment to recognize that. Go ahead.
Verse 29, and thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness.
This is how we are in the schools. We're groping at noonday because we're not learning anything about ourselves in these cemetery schools. That's what I'm gonna really call them. Not only in the seminary schools in the churches, but it's like you're sitting in row cemeteries in your classroom, like tombstones, like dead people. Ain't learning nothing about yourselves. I'm gonna talk about the educational system in this class here, because I got some stuff for that. Okay, read.
And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways.
Can we aim this thing up a little bit?
And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore.
And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore. And what?
And no man shall save thee.
And no man shall save thee. That's the no man shall buy you again. No man shall redeem you. That's what this is talking about. No man shall save us, because we were going to have to go through this captivity until we come to repentance. So that's the reason I wanted to have that read, because that's the reason why this class is entitled The Miseducational Conspiracy Against the Oppressed Israelites. We are the ones that's oppressed. That's what the prophecy says, right? So going back to where I was at, I was in the book of Luke, and I was talking about what happened to the Jews after 70 AD, which is what we're looking at with this book that intrigued me many years ago. So last week I talked about after 70 AD, like I said, they have it hidden. They don't talk about that information. They don't talk about that information at all. And it's left a big question mark. But after this had happened, the Israelites fled further down into the interiors of Africa, meaning those ones that took heed to what Christ said. Christ said that when you see Jerusalem surrounded with armies, then know that it's time to get out of here. Some of us took heed to that. Some of us didn't, like the Zealots. They said, we're going to fight. And we lost the war. So many of us was taken into Rome. When the Romans came in, they killed a lot of us. They killed our women. They killed our children, our babies, all of that. Read Psalms 79 real quick. Read Psalm 79, 1-3.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 79, and verse 1. O God, the heathen are come into thine inheritance. Thy holy temple have they defiled.
The holy temple have these people defiled. This happened twice. This happened during the time of Babylon, okay? And it also happened during the time of Rome. So actually, I believe I'm reading about what happened in Babylon here. But it repeated itself during the time of Rome. Read it again.
O God, the heathen are come into thine inheritance.
O God, the heathen have come into thine inheritance. They came in to destroy us. Go ahead.
Thy holy temple have they defiled.
Thy holy temple have the Babylonians defiled. This is what Psalms 137 is talking about. Give me that also. Just give me 137 and hold that. Read it again, because I'm going to show you that Esau did the same thing later, because it's going to talk about them. Read it again.
Psalms 79, verse 1.
Yes.
O God, the heathen are come into thine inheritance.
The heathen have, the nations, meaning the Babylonians particularly, have come into our inheritance. Go ahead.
Thy holy temple have they defiled.
The holy temple of the Most High have the Babylonians defiled. Go ahead.
They have laid Jerusalem on heaps.
They have laid Jerusalem on heaps. Go ahead.
The dead bodies of thy servants have they given to be meat unto the fowls of the heaven.
As they were killing our people, they left our bodies on the ground and allowed the vultures and the coyotes, whatever, would just take a little piece of our children and take them in the bush and finish eating them up later. Because they left us on the ground. That's what we're reading. Go ahead.
The flesh of thy saints unto the beasts of the earth.
Go ahead.
Their blood have they shed like water round about Jerusalem.
So this is what the Babylonians did against us. Now, give me Psalms 137 to let you know that not only did Babylon do it, they did it too.
Psalm chapter 137, verse 7. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom.
The Most High didn't just say the Babylonians. He said, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom. Go ahead.
In the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, raise it.
The Edomites was on the other side when we were getting overthrown by the Babylonians. They were actually cheering it on, and they were participating physically in our destruction during this time here, during the time of Babylon. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Because a lot of people will just read that and just think that they were just on the side like cheerleaders. No, the Romans was actually, the Edomites was literally in the battle to destroy Israel, to do exactly what we're reading here. They were implicit inside doing it. They were doing it. Read.
Even to the foundation thereof.
They said, destroy Jerusalem even to the foundation, to the bone. Destroy it, completely destroy it. Read.
O daughter of Babylon.
O daughter of Babylon. Now he's talking about Edom, because Edom is the daughter of the traits of Babylon. So whatever Babylon did, Esau did it too. The abomination of desolation, that was Esau. Y'all all right? Read.
O daughter of Babylon.
O daughter of Babylon.
Who art to be destroyed.
Why did the Lord say who art to be destroyed? Because they did what we just read here. They did the same thing too. That's what we're reading in the history. That's what we understand what happened. That's what Luke was talking about. Luke was way after the time period of Babylon. And Christ is saying, listen, the Romans shall come. So that's talking about Esau coming to fulfill this again. Even though Babylon did it, they turned around and did it again to us. Read.
Happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us.
Happy shall we be that reward. Happy shall he be that rewardeth them the way they served us. Go ahead.
Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones.
That's revenge. That's vengeance and justice. It all mean the same thing. Happy shall we be that take their little ones and bash their heads up against the stones, because that's what they did to us. This is some of the stuff that happened to us after 70 AD. That's what we're reading about here. Everybody's with me? All right. Now, so I was bringing up the part about the gladiators in Rome. I showed the book last week. How many of y'all remember that? How many of y'all don't remember that? Okay, are these brothers new? All right, let's just show a couple of pictures and let's move on. Give me Imperial Rome. Just put the book up there. We're just going to brush through this real quick. Thank you, brothers on the mix in the back. Imperial Rome. This is a book that was put out by Moses Haddad. That's the so-called Jew that wrote the book. It's Time Life Books, so it's letting you know there's a certain credible authenticity to this record. Y'all follow what I'm saying? There's in other words, Dr. Buzzard didn't write this. You follow me? So when you open up the book, open it up. Let's get to the next page. Okay, we're going to come with it right there. That's what I want. Zoom in on that. That's the inside of the book. This is the name of the book. It's called Imperial Rome by Moses Haddad. Okay? Time Life Books, the editors of Time Life Books. I just wanted y'all to see that. The Great Ages of Man, history of the world. I can't read that. Cultures. Okay. Now let's open up the book. Let's get to some of them pages. I'm just running through this real quick. Brothers that was here last week saw this, so I'm just going to do because I got a lot more to show. Right, that's what I want right there. This is in the same book. Bizarre Games for Gladiators. Again, what happened to the Jews after 70 AD? We're about to read about them. Y'all all right? So when you look at it, zoom in so we can get the words. Okay, let's start reading.
Says,
yeah, come on.
Hail, Emperor! Those who are about to die salute you.
Right.
With those solemn address
With that solemn address.
With this solemn address, the gladiators scheduled to fight filed past the imperial box.
Go ahead.
Most of them were prisoners of war.
That's the part I wanted to get. Most of these men that's getting ready to fight were prisoners of war. What war were they prisoners of? 70 AD. So when the sister asked the question in the book, that's who wrote the book. Ella Hewley, I think that's what her name was on that book that I showed you earlier, The World's Greatest Secret. That's what it's talking about here. Read that statement again.
Most of them were prisoners of war.
Most of these people that are set to fight in the arenas were prisoners of war. So their grandfathers and all of that, I mean, their grandfathers, their fathers, children, and their grandchildren, they were all dragged into this situation where they would be later thrown into the arenas, in the Roman arenas, to fight against the lions and the tigers and the bears and all that. Y'all with me so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when the question was asked, what happened to the Jews after 70 AD, you're looking at it. We're about to read about it. Read on.
Slaves or criminals sent through stern training schools.
They called us slaves or criminals. Why? Because we were the Jews. We were not Romans. You dig it? And that's what they call us now. They call us servants and they call us criminals because we are not in league with their ideas. We're rebellious, as they would call us. You dig it? So they said, well, we're going to label you criminals. Read.
The night before, they had been feted at the lavish banquet where fans came to eye favorites and gamblers to estimate odds.
And gamblers to estimate odds on which one of these men is going to defeat these lions. They were betting on their favorites. Go ahead.
Now, in the stands, peddlers hawked cold drinks, buns, and sausages.
Somebody pointed out last week that that's what they do in the stadiums now. So Esau keeps up with his traditions. Hot dogs, all that, while you're in the arenas looking. And all of that was built off of us being a spectacle, just like today. We're still the spectacle that everybody's looking at. Right. Esau adheres to history. He just lies to us about it. Go ahead.
The more unusual the contest,
the
better the Romans liked it.
The better the Romans liked it. Listen now.
Gladiators often fought with mismatched weapons.
So these Jews that were prisoners of war, captives, end up being the gladiators in the arenas. So when I talked about that movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe and the black stars that was in there with him, they put that black man in there because somebody knows that the history will not be accurate if you don't have black people as the gladiators, because as this book is going to point out, the gladiators were black. Y'all digging me? Mm-hmm. Read.
Negroes are a rare sight. Negroes, a rare sight in Rome.
Negroes with a comma. And then they say, wait a minute. Because you would look at the pictures and you would see Negroes there. But before you get too comfortable and say, wait a minute, the gladiators are Negroes, they want to come and do the Jedi mind trick and say, woof. They look like the gladiators might be Negroes, but not quite. Maybe just one. No. The gladiators were the prisoners of war from 7 AD, again telling you that the Jews are black. Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
Now, in Rudolph R. Windsor's book, I should have brought that. In 70, it talks about, can you stand up and read that? Because I didn't get a picture of it. Just read that part of it. Let's see if we can get an image of it, of the book. Hold on a second. I think I have the picture in my thing. Say something real quick.
This history that Deke is going over, I kind of been going to libraries. I was telling Deke about it coming up here. And I found a book I brought out in the car, and I was sharing it with Deke. And in that history, though, Cap, it shows he was talking about Christopher Columbus. But in this book that I was reading, they was adding America Vespucci in there with him. And so they was talking about how they should name it, give, of course, it became America by the naming of America Vespucci, but they was kind of debating on it, how they wanted to recognize this place when they came. When Christopher Columbus came, America Vespucci came, that they wasn't like, they was all explorers. They was all in that together. They was all, the book was describing, I was really taken back by that Captain Josiah with that history, that they was all part of that.
Yeah, I want to show y'all something in Obadiah real quick, relating to what Deacon pulled out in Psalms 137. Go to Obadiah, read verse 1 real quick.
This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1 and verse 1. The vision of Obadiah, thus said the Lord God concerning Edom.
So it says the vision of Obadiah. These are the things that the Most High revealed to him, right? Read on.
We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle.
Come on.
Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen.
Small meaning what? Greatly despised. It's going to say that. Read on.
Thou art greatly despised.
So now, we're talking about Edom. Jump down to verse 10. Give me verse 10.
Verse 10.
Watch this.
For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off from there forever. Verse 11. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side.
In the day what?
In the day that thou stoodest on the other side.
This is talking about what Deacon read in Psalms 137, when they assisted the Babylonians in helping us. That's why I call them, O daughter of Babylon. Read it again.
In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive.
The strangers were the Babylonians. They helped them. Read on.
His forces and foreigners entered into his gates.
Come on.
And cast lots upon Jerusalem. Even thou wast as one of them.
Thou was what?
Even thou wast as one of them.
Thou was as one of them. Esau is the daughter of Babylon. They took on those same attributes. They learned it. Okay? Thou was as one of them. They assisted in destroying us. Come on.
Verse 12. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger. Neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress.
Because Esau is our brother, but he dealt with us wickedly. Okay, so that's why the Most High is saying that. But look at those the other parts. He said, in the day that the strangers carried away. What's that part at? That I think it's verse 11.
Verse 11. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the stranger carried away captive.
That's what Psalms was talking about. Oh Lord, the heathen has entered into our inheritance. That's the precept there. Read.
His force and foreigners
took our gold, silver, took all that. Go ahead.
Entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem. Even thou wast as one of them.
That's like Captain brought out. Even thou was one of them. So they were there doing it. They weren't just on the other side clapping. They were implicit in it. Read on.
Verse 12. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger.
We became strangers to the Most High. The Most High turned his back on us. That's what he's saying there. So we became strangers. Those are the strangers that the Most High is talking about in the book of Peter, so you're going to understand. To the strangers that are scattered throughout Pontus. Those are the Israelites. Okay, even in the book of Acts when it says, and strangers of Rome, those were Israelites. Again. Go ahead.
Neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress.
Go ahead. I think there's a part in there where it says that cut them off as they tried to escape.
Verse 14.
Read on.
Verse 13. Thou shouldest not have entered into the gates of my people.
That's the point there. So that's letting you know that they were physically involved in the destruction. Go ahead.
In the day of their calamity.
In the day of their calamity when Babylon came in. Go ahead.
Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity.
Did you see what it said? Neither did they laid hands on our substance in the day of our destruction. Go ahead.
Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape.
So they were doing the killing as well. I was trying to follow along with you. I knew it was coming. It says, so they stood in the crossway when we were trying to run from Babylon and said, no, throw them back into the battle for us to be killed. And if that didn't happen that way, they themselves killed us. You see that? All that history. So Rome did that again in the time when Christ spoke about it in Luke. That's what Christ was prophesying. Everybody's with me so far?
Yes, sir.
So when the sister asked the question in the book, what happened to the Israelites after 70 AD, they don't want to give you that information. Neither do they want to give you the information about what happened to us before the 1600s. They don't want to give you that because the connecting history is what we're going to talk about today. Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. All praise to the Most High. So back to the book. Right? That was it, right? That's what. Oh, yeah. That's what I wanted to get. I was reading something. Okay, let's open it up. I went to Rudolph R. Windsor because we was reading about prisoners of war. That's right. Go back to take this off the screen for a second. We're gonna come back to this. Don't lose that. Read that statement again. Just want to put the pieces together. Most of them, you see where it says on the third line up from the top? Read.
Most of them were prisoners of war, slaves, or criminals sent through stern training schools.
So we don't want that sent through training schools part, not yet. We want the part where it says most of them, meaning the Israelites that was taken out of Jerusalem in 70 AD were, stay with me, what's happening? It says I got lost. Were prisoners of war, thank you. Were prisoners of war. Were prisoners of war. Now give me Rudolph R. Windsor. Give me Rudolph R. Windsor. This is the book, Babylon to Timbuktu, Rudolph R. Windsor. This is the brother that wrote the book. Okay, a lot of good information in there. We've used this book many times in our teachings. Actually, we got videos where we actually spoke with the brother. The brother came and visited one of the schools in the southern part of this country, and him and Bishop had a meeting when they were talking, and we aired it. You can find it somewhere. Okay, so let's open this up. Let's open up the book, page 84, and let's read about the war that said most of them were criminals of war. Let's see what it's talking about. Zoom in. Abraham, you got me? All praises.
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute. I sent it to you. That ain't what I sent you. Okay.
You want to start at in the year?
Yeah.
Okay. Page 84. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem.
Now, this is accurate history because what was going on before this? When you read it, when you look at the history here, give me Matthew 1 and 16 or 17. Matthew 1, 16, the verses that the churches leave out. They go right to the 18th verse trying to deal with that, try to say Christ had no lineage. But they leave this information out here. I'll talk about that another time.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 16. And Jacob begat Joseph. And
read the first verse.
Verse 1.
Because somebody might be stirring up with that demonic doctrine. Christ had no father, no earthly father. Read the first verse.
Verse 1. The book of the generations of Jesus Christ.
The book of the genes of Jesus Christ. The genes, meaning the daddy. The genetic makeup of the body, so you can understand. Y'all all right? Of the body that was made. Give me Hebrews. Stay there. I'm jumping around. Give me Hebrews chapter 10, I think it is. The 4th verse. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 4.
Hebrews chapter 10, verse 4. For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins.
This is the Most High. This is the Most High dealing with the Hebrews, the Israelites, the Jews, so you can understand. Read it again.
For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins.
So the law of sacrifice was being done away with. That's what this is speaking about here, meaning the sacrificing of animals, which is one of the 5 sets of laws that the Israelites was required to keep. You had the ceremonial law, which deals with our high holy days. You had the dietary law, which is the law of what to eat, what not to eat. You had a moral law, which deals with homosexuality and stuff like that. We're not supposed to be doing that. You had what am I leaving out? Civil law on how to resolve issues with your brethren and your sister, like Matthew 18 would be an example of a civil law, how to resolve issues between each other. Then you had the sacrificial law, which dealt with what animals to sacrifice for certain sins. That 5th set, or the laws of sacrifice, was done away with, okay? Because Christ was the ultimate sacrifice, okay? That's the reason why he was called the Lamb. Read.
Verse 5. Wherefore, when he cometh into the world,
Wherefore, when Christ cometh into the world, go ahead.
he said, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared me.
So that's letting you know that Christ knew in spirit that a body was going to be made for him to dwell in. Read that statement again.
Verse 5. Wherefore, when he cometh into the world,
Go ahead.
he said, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared me.
But a body hast thou prepared me. But a body hast thou prepared me. How was the body prepared? Through the sexual union of Joseph and Mary. So the body that was being made, the Most High was going to put the Spirit of Christ in that body. But the body was made between Mary and Joseph. Everybody's with me? That's the reason why Romans say exactly what it says. It says, give me that, Romans 1 and 3.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 1, verse 3. Concerning his son, Jesus Christ, our Lord, which was made of the seed of David.
Seed of David is sperm. Women don't carry sperm. Seed of David, meaning the sperm line, the genes. Read.
According to the flesh.
According to the flesh, meaning natural birth. Go ahead.
Read it again.
That was it?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
According to the flesh, which was made of the seed of David. That was the body that was made that the Spirit of Christ was going to get put into.
Yes, sir.
Everybody's with me? Now go back to where I was at. Matthew, right? Yeah.
Chapter 1 and verse 1. The book of the generations of Jesus Christ.
The book of the genes of Jesus.
The son of David.
The son of David.
The son of Abraham.
The son of Abraham. So that means he came through that sperm line, so you can understand. Women don't carry sperm. Y'all understand that? Everybody's with me so far?
Yes, sir.
Now I'll jump to the 16th verse.
Verse 16. And Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary.
And Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary.
Of whom was born Jesus.
And of whom between Joseph and Mary came Jesus. That's the reason why it's written that way. What verse is that?
Verse 16.
Read.
Who is called Christ.
Who is called the Christ. That's who we're reading about. Go ahead.
Verse 17. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations.
Read.
And from David unto the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations.
Go ahead. These are captivities. Go ahead.
And from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations.
So during the time from Babylon to Christ, what was happening? Israel was in captivity. Israel, that's what we was reading. That's what them 3 verses talking about. Israel was in captivity. So that last part of that last verse there, read the bottom part of 17.
And from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations.
So unto Christ. So what was happening? Israel was looking for a savior. That's the reason why the Israelites was looking for him, because he was to come to be a savior to save us from the Romans. Now, what was I reading before I went on the tangent? When I went off on the tangent, where was I? I was reading this. Read it again. That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See, I'm too many places. I got to get my place back. Start reading again. Thank you. Thank you.
Page 84. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem.
So that means Israel was in captivity. That's the part I want to bring. From 65 BC, Jerusalem was being occupied by Rome, and the Israelites was looking for a savior. When you open up the New Testament, you're reading about Tiberius Caesar. You're reading about the Caesars that was in Rome. You go to, when you read Matthew, I think it's 11, where it says the violent take it by force, because the Romans was taking the kingdom from Israel. Okay, because so when that was happening, we were looking for a savior. That's the point. As we were looking for a savior, Christ is born. We're looking for Christ to take us out of this captivity. That's the whole point with those verses there. Everybody's with me? All right, so we're done with the scriptures. Now let's go back to the history. So what the brother wrote, Rudolph Windsor, he was correct. This is proper. Read.
In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son, Titus, put in...
So you're talking about from 65 BC to 70 AD, so Christ was in the middle of that. Y'all understand it?
Yes, sir. 65
BC is primarily 65 years before Christ was born. So they was already starting to occupy Jerusalem before Christ came up. That's why Herod was looking to kill him, because they was listening. They were saying, wait a minute, I hear that there's this deliverer coming, this Savior coming. So they were looking to kill him because they tried to prevent that. So that's letting you know that the Romans was already occupying Jerusalem before Christ was born. And then after, when Christ came on the scene, he said, listen, there's going to come a time when the Romans are going to come in because you Israelites disobeyed the laws of the Most High. I came to die for you, but you still got to go through these punishments that Moses written. So when you see Jerusalem come around, when you see Jerusalem surrounded with armies, you better get out of here, because these are the days of your punishment. These are the days of vengeance. Everybody's with me. That's what's happening. Read.
In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son, Titus, put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter during the period of the military governors of Palestine.
During the time of the what?
Military governors of Palestine.
During the time of the military occupation of Jerusalem. What happened?
Many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people.
They were tearing us up. They were mistreating us, taxes, heavy tax burdens and all that was going on. Y'all know about it because some of that history is written in the Bible. So they were persecuting, destroying us. Like I said in the book of, give me that since I touched it. Give me Matthew 11. Let's just read it. Matthew 11 and 11. Matthew 11 and 11.
Matthew chapter 11.
We're going to actually read about what it's talking about real quick. Come on.
Matthew chapter 11, verse 11. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there has not risen a greater than John the Baptist.
There has not risen a greater than John the Baptist. So the subject matter at this point is about John the Baptist, right?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Notwithstanding,
don't pay too much attention to John the Baptist particularly. Go ahead.
Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven,
the smallest man in the kingdom of heaven,
is greater than he.
Is going to be greater than the forerunner to Christ. So that's letting you know how great the kingdom is going to be. Now read on.
Verse 12. And from the day of John the Baptist.
And from the days. Is there the S on that word?
And from the days of John the Baptist unto now.
Until the time when Christ was speaking this.
The kingdom of heaven suffereth violence.
That's telling you crystal clear what the kingdom of heaven is. The kingdom of heaven is the Israelites ruling. But it said that the kingdom of heaven was suffering violence. That's what we just read up there. The military governors of Palestine was, read that, jump up here again, then we coming back to that. Abraham, you stay with me. You stay with me. Abraham, read that section out of there again. I'm putting the pieces together for you.
Okay. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were
Go ahead.
Were committed against the residue of the people.
Was committed against the residue of the Jews, the Israelites that were still in Jerusalem. That's what that's telling you. Come back to the Bible. We're coming back to you, Abraham.
Verse 12. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffered violence.
Many outrages and atrocities. That's the suffering violence. What did the Most High call it in the Bible? He called it the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven suffered violence. We are the kingdom of heaven when we are in rulership. That's what the Bible's talking about. The kingdom of heaven is going to be on this planet Earth. You ain't going to be flying around with no wings and all that. You're going to be here on this earth ruling with God's laws.
That's right.
Read that again. The kingdom of heaven.
Now the kingdom of heaven suffered violence.
The kingdom of heaven suffered violence. And atrocities. Go ahead.
And the violent take it by force.
And the violent, meaning the violent people, the Romans, took the kingdom of Israel by force. Meaning they took it from us. Okay? That's the reason why Daniel 7:18 said we're going to take the kingdom back. Y'all all right? So we got that part of it. Now let's get back to the book.
During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery.
Why were they running?
Fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery.
So the ones of us that escaped, we were running because they were tearing us up violently with outrages and atrocities. We were running out. So they were capturing many of us. They were killing many of us. The ones that they captured, they brought us into Rome. And that's what you was reading about in the Time Life books there. That's the point. So the pieces are starting to come together, correct?
Yes, sir.
This is what they've been hiding in school. They don't tell you none about this, but then they just manufacture these so-called white people and say, these are the Jews now. Read.
The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
You see what the Bible says? The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. The reason why Rudolph put that in is so there would be no doubt about what Jews is he talking about. You would not normally have to write that the Jews are black in history because everybody would have known that. But people are stupefied now, so he has to say, listen, I need to make the point in saying that these Jews that fled out of Jerusalem in 70 AD, they were black because of this promulgation of lies that have been put all over the place in your school system that refuse to answer our questions with more questions, question marks, and a blank history. Lies. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. Now let's go back to the book. Y'all all right? Let's go back to the book, Time Life Books. I'm just speeding it up now. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. All right. So what it says there, the more, you can jump down. Okay, you see what it says? Most of them were prisoners of war. We read that earlier. Slaves are criminals. That's what we were considered because we were war captives. Y'all all right? Now jump down to the paragraph where it says, the more unusual.
The more unusual the contest, the better the Romans liked it.
The more unusual, because they hated us. They hated us. To see us get mauled by lions and tigers was a sport to them. They loved that. So they'd give us mismatched weapons, a little dwarf knife to fight against a lion, that they would starve to come after you. These people ain't changed.
Right.
These people ain't changed. Hold on a second. Read on.
Gladiators often fought with mismatched weapons. Negroes, a rare sight in Rome.
Negroes, a rare sight in Rome. A rare sight in Rome. Why is it using a rare sight in Rome? Because they don't want you to recognize that the gladiators were black. It just told you that the gladiators often fought with mismatched weapons. Who were the gladiators? Negroes. That part where it says a rare sight in Rome should not even have been there. But that was to put you back to sleep just in case you were starting to get a glimmer of wake up. Y'all all right? Yes, sir. That's like saying about that book in Spain where it says Christ in majesty. Christ whose darkened flesh tones give him an almost negroid cast. You would look at the pictures that the Jews in Spain, the Moors, so you could talk about the blacks, painted of Christ, black all over the walls. You'll look at it and you say, oh, these are black people. But then they put around and said that it almost made him look like a Negro. And then you'll fall back to sleep. Oh, they black, but they not quite black. That's to put you back to sleep. Y'all all right? That's the whole point of that. So that's there. Give me the next picture. Give me the next picture. All right. This right here is in another part of the book. I wanted to get the bottom part. Nope. Well, I guess you want to get the top of it. Tournament of Beasts. Thank you, brothers on the IT. Tournament of Beasts. The Tournament of Beasts was, again, this is in the same book. A Tournament of Beasts was when they were throwing us into the arenas to fight with the lions and the tigers. And the tournament of these beasts that they were set up to fight to devour the Israelites. So let's read the caption at the bottom. They said a rare sight in Rome, right? Negroes, right? It says a triumphant lion brought to a pitch of madness by starvation. I played a clip yesterday on the radio, on the radio show. I was trying to see if I had my thumb drive here, but I didn't see it. I thought I brought it with me. I was going to have the brothers play it, but it'll take away from the class. So if y'all want to hear it, just watch the class that I did yesterday. I actually played it through. But anyway, the point that was made in that recording from the radio was about how the dogs that were let loose on the sisters that was pregnant, that was tied to the ground, and she was fully pregnant, full term, and Rockenbaugh, the general that came in, who vowed to turn the island of Haiti back into slavery, he said, I'm going to kill every black person I see here, every Haitian alive, I'm going to kill him. And he started out by finding a pregnant woman, nailing her hands and feet to pickets on the ground so she couldn't move, and rubbing blood and meat on her stomach, on her pregnant stomach. And they had a cage of hungry dogs that they had starved. Y'all follow what I'm saying? They starved the dogs. And then when they let the dogs loose, they're going to go right and eat the meat off of her stomach. And they're not going to stop because the blood is going to be on her stomach. So they're going to eat right through it and eat to the baby and eat the baby out of her stomach. That's what I played yesterday on the radio. Y'all follow me? And the white man that was over the transmitter, he pulled the plug while the brother was bringing it out. Pulled the plug to the radio station. Pulled it out. Then the woman that was hosting it, she came back. She said, as you can see, we were off the air. Because the brother that was bringing out the information, his name was Edward Scobie, a professor in New York. He was bringing this information out, and apparently he forgot that he was on the radio. He got carried away and was bringing that history out with nothing holding him back. And they said, well, wait a minute, too many people listening to this. Because he started to make the connection between Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom. He don't even know nothing about Israel. He was just bringing up the two histories. He was saying, as they were destroying us in Haiti, they have the same diabolical, insatiable appetite to kill and murder and commit genocide. They did the same thing with Columbus. He mentioned that on the radio. And they said, that's the connection that we don't need to get out here. And they pulled the plug. Y'all all right? Well, I'm going to plug it back in and give it to you. Y'all all right? Now, so it says that the triumphant lion brought to a pitch of madness by starvation prepares to devour a fallen what? Gladiator. That's the word there. Y'all see it. A fallen gladiator. In such matches, a fighter would usually, In such matches, a fighter usually was equipped with a short sword. That's the mismatched weapon that we were talking about earlier. Was given a short sword, shield, and an arm guard. So they basically gave him nothing. And then they starved the lion to kill the brother. Now let's show the picture. Let's see the fallen gladiator that was attacked by the lion. Look at that. That's in the book, Time Life Books by Moses Haddaz. Can y'all zoom in on you see the lion over him. Look at the face. You notice the nose is knocked off. Zoom in. Let the brothers see it. We talked about this last week, but some of y'all say y'all didn't see it. You can see the hair. They put the hair on him. They knocked the nose off so that you can't differentiate who he was. Negro. You can understand. That's the gladiator that we was reading about in the earlier pages of the same book. Y'all all right? So the question is, what happened to the Israelites after 70 AD? Is it really a mystery, or do somebody know the history? They know the history. Go ahead, Captain.
AD. Notice his lips are gone too.
Exactly.
Nose and the lips.
All of that.
Yeah.
And this is not a freak of accident. When you check out the records, like I said, I got other books at home that shows that the statues of many of the that's showing black prominence throughout history, the noses were knocked off. Napoleon, so you can understand that Sphinx that they have. Napoleon trained his cannon to blow the nose off of the Sphinx to get rid of its ethnic features, its black features. So they had a history of knocking off identifying features. So that's not, it just happened. They knocked it off. Y'all follow me? Ain't that something? So now, again, we're bringing up that history about what happened to the Jews after 70 AD. All right, moving on up. Give me my next book. Now I'm going to talk about the overthrow of Rome in 193 AD. That's what I need right there. I need that page and I need another page. Click one more. While you're doing that, zoom in on Severus Septimius. His picture is in this row of emperors, as they call them. Look for Severus. Look at that. This is how they begin to lie in history. They're showing you, y'all can see that? It says Septimius Severus When you watch the movie Gladiator, they named the head guy Septimius, did they? Remember? Do y'all remember that? That was a black man. Okay? But they put a picture of a white man in the book. But in the writing, they tell you that he was African by birth. But again, telling you that he was black. These were the same descendants of the gladiators that was fighting in the arenas.
Let's go to Bell and the Dragon real quick. We just pulled the history out about how they would starve the lions in preparation for the gladiator events, right? And going back to Psalms 137 again, where they call Edom the daughter of Babylon. Now we know Bell and the Dragon is what history? Huh? Right. So look at start at 29.
This is the history of Bel of the Dragon, verse 29. So they came to the king and said, "Deliver us, Daniel, or else we will destroy thee in thy house." Now, when the king saw that they pressed him sore, being constrained, he delivered Daniel unto them, who cast him into the lion's den, where he was 6 days.
He was in the lion's den 6 days. But watch, this is the point I want to get to, verse 32.
And in the den there were 7 lions, and they had given them every day 2 carcasses and 2 sheep, when there were not given to them, which then were not given to them.
So for a whole 6 days, they starved the lions to try to get them to eat up Daniel. Right? Read again.
Verse 32. And in the den there were 7 lions, and they had given them every day 2 carcasses and 2 sheep.
Hey, do y'all have a number beside carcasses?
No.
With an annotation? What does it say? Or 2 slaves. Right. Read again.
And in the den there were 7 lions, and they had given them every day 2 carcasses and 2 sheep, which then were not given to them, to the intent.
The purpose was to do what?
They might devour Daniel.
So again, Edom being the daughter of Babylon, they set up these gladiator events, starved the lions out, and sent men in there unprepared to fight, short swords and so forth. They did the same thing. Okay, now go to Luke real quick. Let me look at something else. Luke chapter 6 and verse 15. And y'all remember Christ in Luke 2:1, he told the Israelites to flee, right? Some of them didn't flee. And we're reading about how they were captured and made slaves, gladiators. They called them prisoners of war and so forth. So Luke 6 and 15, I want to show y'all something.
Luke chapter 6, verse 15. Matthew and Thomas, James, the son of Alphaeus.
These are the apostles. Start at 13 just to get it in context.
13. And when it was day, he called unto him his disciples, and of them he chose 12, whom also he named apostles.
Come on.
Simon, whom he also named Peter, and Andrew his brother, James and John, Philip and Bartholomew.
Read on.
Andrew and Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon called Zelotes.
Simon called Zelotes or Zelotes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, can we pull that definition up real quick? Just look up the definition of zealot, Zealot. Just pull that up on the screen real quick. Read the historical definition.
It says a member of an ancient Jewish sect aiming at a world Jewish theocracy and resisting the Romans until AD 70.
It says they resisted the Romans until AD 70, what we're reading about when Titus and Vespasian destroyed Jerusalem, right? But this brother Simon was in this, and Christ pulled him out of it. But some of them, they fought against the Romans, okay? The zealots or the zelotes, same thing, same people, all right? You ready, D?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I sent you the 2 pictures. We're looking at this picture here. You see they have a so-called white man, a white bus. I don't know who that is, but they put Severus Septimius under there. It's just the same racism, so you can understand, the same racist tactic as them saying Negroes a rare sight in Rome. They don't want you to get the idea about who the real Jews are in terms of what they look like and about who the gladiators were. They were the Jews. They were the war captives that was taken out of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Everybody's with me so far? So now, as you see, they put the picture up there and it says Septimius Severus, right? Okay, brothers, is coming to you. These 2 pages here, this is in the same book. Okay. Give me the right. Zoom in on that. At the bottom of the page is where it talks about Severus Septimius. You see that? Yeah, it's cut off, but I got the second page. The second page continues it. It says armies based in several of the provinces had already proclaimed their own commanders as emperor. One of them, Septimius Severus. Go to the next page. Click. Now zoom in at the top. African by birth. Y'all see that? So he was a black man. So let's go back to the other page because there's something that we need to mention. So why did they put now if you're looking at Severus Septimius black here in terms of the writing, why did they put the white image in the book? The same way that they did in your schools, the Bible got Christ written as a black man described, but what pictures do they give you? Cesare Borgia. Same diabolical thinking. But that sentence that I read prior to that Septimius Severus is something that I wanted to bring up. It says armies based, it says, but Didius Julianus, which was the winner's full name, had brought himself a dubious claim. Armies based in several of the provinces had already proclaimed their own commanders as emperors. One of those emperors was Severus Septimius. So what did Rome do? Rome started putting, because these gladiators were fighting so well, they said, well, we can use them to train our militaries, to train our armies, and put them as emperors over their legions. Y'all see that? Black men. Y'all all right? So as you see this here, this is how the gladiators got control of Rome. And they showed you that. They showed tidbits of that in Gladiators. They said, win the favor of the people and you got the empire. They were saying that in Gladiator, certain parts of it. Y'all all right? So that's how they end up overthrowing Rome. That's when Rome went into the period that they call the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages, because the blacks were ruling it. And once you got the man's army, who's going to fight you? You dig it? So Rome went down. So now blacks are ruling Rome. Then from there, they started ruling Spain, Germany, Europe, all of those areas. Are y'all with me? It began to spread like wildfire, the ruling. We were just taking them out. Y'all all right? Now, give me my next book. Iconoclasm. The icons. And, let me show that. So now, this is still the missing history. Everybody's with me. This is what they don't tell you in school. And when I say they don't tell you in school, let me tell y'all something. I'm going to jump the gun a little bit. We got about an hour, a little over an hour left, about an hour and a half. But I want to make sure that Bishop get in. So let me mention something. Lean back a little bit. As we get ready to go into the book called The Icon, y'all all right? Just keep that in the tab. Jump to, I got a couple of articles that I want to bring up. Look for the article, I think I sent it to y'all, one called Adelaide Sanford and Professor Jeffries. These are two articles. They're not long, but I just want y'all to see it. Adelaide, and I'm going to explain these names because I know nobody know what I'm talking about. Adelaide Sanford and Professor Leonard Jeffries. Okay, we're looking at Leonard Jeffries. Give me Adelaide Sanford first. Thank you. I want that one, but give me Adelaide Sanford first because I'm going to explain what was happening. Can y'all see? Can y'all read some of this here? Because whatever we don't read on the screen, I'll just tell you out of my own lips. So give me a second. Let me look for the articles. I want to read along with you. Everybody's with me. All right. Hang on. Okay. Read.
Adelaide Luvinia Sanford was born in Brooklyn, New York. She is a leader, scholar, activist administrator, public speaker, and national advocate for African-centered education for students of African descent. She has been in the field of education for over 35 years as an educator,
Go ahead.
education activist, principal, community organizer, and vice chancellor emerita. Board of Regents University of the State of New York.
That's the part that I wanted to get to. This is when I began to find out about this woman with that statement there. So what you're reading about this sister, Adelaide Sanford, she was, as you can see, she got a lot of credentials in terms of her doing work for her people, correct? Everybody's with me?
Yes, sir.
You know who Adelaide Sanford was? Adelaide Sanford was on the New York Board of Regents. Anybody know what the New York Board, well, I say New York Board, I just say the Board of Regents. Anybody know what's the responsibility of the Board of Regents?
No, sir.
They are the ones that determine what goes in the textbooks in the schools. Are y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
The Board of Regents, there's a board that determines what get taught to your sons and daughters. It's a board of them. This sister was on the board. And being that she was for her people, she said, you know what? We need to have what is known as a curriculum of inclusion. How many of y'all heard that word before? Curriculum of inclusion. Y'all remember that? Now, this is in the 80s. This was before I came into the school in One West. This was before this. This is during the 80s. This was during the time that I was talking about when I would listen to the radio a lot. Y'all are with? Y'all are right. I used to watch Gil Noble, Like It Is. Gil Noble interviewed her, and she was talking about all of this on the program. Gil Noble, Like It Is. That's the show that was shown in New York, ABC television. He had her on his program, and she was she was giving the reason why it was so important to have this curriculum of inclusion. And I'm going to address something. The word inclusion is not really a favorable word because if you're talking about including something, that means if you got a glass of dirty water and you pour clean water in it as the truth, you're still going to get pollution. So the more accurate term, but would not have passed at all, would have been change the curriculum to truth and get rid of all those Columbus lies, get rid of this, all that crap that they've been telling your sons and daughters. Everybody's with me. But they had to use the term inclusion just to get a foot in the door, so to speak. Y'all all right? So on this panel, this sister brought up, she knew about these professors that was in schools, in the colleges, that CUNY University, City University of New York. So she being on the panel, she said that we need to get together and have a bevy of professors in all kinds of histories. She had Latin history. She even went to Chinese and, she had all that, but it was mainly centered around what was missing in the schools. The majority of the curriculum that was supposed to be injected into the educational system was supposed to be about African studies, black people. You follow what I'm saying? I know everybody's not with me so far. I'm going to hit you in the head with a little bit after this. Everybody's with me so far. So her objective was to have truth brought into the classroom. She sat on the New York Board of Regents, and her desire was to bring a curriculum that will deal with the ill-taught students, the black people that learning nothing about themselves. Everybody's with me so far. So Jeffries, now give me Jeffries now. Jeffries was one of these professors. Not only was Jeffries one of them, but Edward Scobie, the tape that I played yesterday, he was also on that panel. Y'all hear how he speak, right? Y'all all right? Am I losing y'all? He was also on that panel. So they said, wait a minute. You see they pulled the plug on him. You know damn well they're not going to let this thing really get rolling. And it ain't so much that the white man, Esau, and the so-called Jews, they weren't worrying so much about us glorifying in African Nefertiti and all that other stuff. They weren't really interested in that. What they were afraid of, that somebody's like Jeffries, Scobies, Smalls, these dudes, if we allow them to get loose in the schools and allow them to start going into the deep recesses and checking out those rare sections of the library, they might find out more than about so-called Africans. They might find out that these people that we got in captivity are the Jews. That's the reason why they mess with Jeffries. That's the reason why they mess with him. There was a speech that Jeffries did. I forget the name of the college that he spoke in. And what happened? They said he was anti-Semitic, and they used him as the reason to tear the whole thing down. They said, well, Jeffries, you're anti-Semitic. So because of you're anti-Semitic, we're going to take you down and take down the whole curriculum of inclusion to get rid of it. That's the reason why it never surfaced. Y'all all right? And they took his tenure. He was actually a tenured university at City University in New York. They took that from him. Now, let's read about Jeffries real quick. I'm just throwing this out there. Read that.
Leonard Jeffries Jr. is a former professor of Black Studies at the City College of New York, part of the City University of New York. He was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. Known for his Pan-African Afrocentrist views.
They don't care about that. Pan-African in their mind was like, okay, as long as he's talking about African stuff, just as long as they don't read about this history that we have here on this table. Go ahead.
Views that the role of African people in history and the accomplishments of African Americans are far more important than commonly held. Jeffries has urged that the public school syllabi be made.
The syllabi. Where you at? I'm trying to.
The second paragraph.
Okay, second known for his Pan-African. I'm trying to follow you.
Let me start over.
No, go ahead.
Jeffries had school syllabi be made less Eurocentric.
Right. Go ahead.
His claims that Jewish businessmen financed the Atlantic slave trade.
Ain't that the same thing that they just did to Nick Cannon? Mm-hmm. I'm letting you know that these people have a history of looking for keywords to use to pull you down to keep you from talking too much. They did this to a professor, so you know they're going to do it to these brothers here. And they've searched all the way back for a tape that he did with Professor Griff out of the 90s. I remember when this happened. It was the situation was so bad that Chuck D of Public Enemy had to oust Griff from the group. Okay, which Chuck D shouldn't have done. But he did that, and it muddied the waters, as one of the writers said. It muddied the waters for the group for a little bit, but then they came back with Welcome to the Terror Dome and all that other stuff, and they were starting to build some kind of rapport with Griff. All right, so I'm just giving you a little bit of that information there. But my point is that they will use trigger words, anti-Semitic, and will use that. They ain't really worrying about Jeffries talking the little stuff that he was saying. They were worried about him having access into the rare sections of the library to pull out the books that showed that you're the Jews that ruled in Europe. That's what they were worried about.
Officer Rayel just pull up what he said. I was gonna let Officer Rayel read that what he said, what they said he was being anti-Semitic. Go ahead.
This is an article from the New York Times. It's a City College professor assailed for remarks on Jews. I'm gonna jump down a little bit in it. It says, in his lecture on the need for cultural education centered on Africa, Dr. Jeffries spoke of a conspiracy planned and plotted and programmed out of Hollywood by people called Greenberg and Weisberg and Trigiani, mafia Jewish financial conspiracy. This is his words, Russian Jewry had a particular control over the movies, he said in the speech.
He brought all of that out in the speech. And Donahue had him on his, Donahue was trying to use this against him. And the man came with all kinds of books all over the table. To say, listen, this is not just coming out of my head. These are the sources from where all this information came. He had a table full of books. So they said, we can't let this Negro get loose because he don't know that we're the Israelites yet. But if we allow him freedom into the academic circles of where the real scholars know what's really going down, he might bring out the truth that we got the Jews in slavery, meaning the black people and the Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel. All that information was going to come out. Y'all all right? That's the reason why I labeled this class the Miseducational Conspiracy against the oppressed Israelites. Because it is a conspiracy to keep you from knowing the real history. Like that sister pointed out in that book. She said, what happened to the Jews after 70 AD? It remains a mystery. And if they would have allowed Jeffries and the rest of the people that had access to these records, they would have went and found some of this information out. Y'all all right? Read. There's more?
A little bit, yeah.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there's a lot
Go ahead.
more.
Give it
I
to
want to
them.
finish this part. It says, Russian Jewry had a particular control over the movies, he said in the speech, and their financial partners, the mafia, put together a financial system of destruction of black people.
Wow. You hear that? So they said, we can't let him loose. So they pulled the plug on Scobie on the radio, and they basically pulled the plug on him. Is there more? That was it? So, that's some heavy stuff there, right? Y'all all right? So y'all can see that we have always been under persecution, and the objective is to keep us from learning about who we really are, because in that learning, you may be inclined to live according to where you come from. And you might be inclined to change your ways. You might be inclined to change your habits, change your thoughts, change your words, change your behavior. And you might become the Israelites that the Bible's talking about because that's the people you descend from. These scholars know that. And they said the best way to keep them from ever waking up is for us to know who they are, but we have to share this information about us among ourselves. We know that we got the Israelites in captivity, so that's the reason why we would write the books. Are y'all all right? Bishop was pointing that out in his class a couple of days ago. He said that they were these books from the 1800s. He said you have to get the ones that's got them old dates on it because during those times we were not reading. So they did not have a fear of us coming across some of this information. Y'all all right? So they would write them and pass it backwards and forwards to each other. Because if they all know what I know, we know how to keep them from learning what we know. So I must tell you, and I must tell you so that when I die, your children know to keep these secrets to yourselves. So that's the reason why the books are written. You dig it? And they'll hide it in plain sight. You go inside the bookstore, and the first thing you do is run over to the African section. Meanwhile, you done left the Judaical section alone, thinking that's not you. You done left the Middle East, you left the medieval section alone, thinking that that's not you. And that's where all the information is. They were afraid that these guys that was underneath Adelaide Sanford in the curriculum of inclusion, they might bump and find out some of that information and bring it out. One such scholar that did that, his name was J.A. Rogers. I'm going to talk a little bit about him. Y'all all right? J.A. Rogers was allowed, a black man again, who was allowed, had all kinds of credentials. He was allowed to go throughout the different provinces over there in Europe and go into the Fairbairn's book of the Royal Crests and take photographs of the coats of arms of black rulers that ruled all throughout Europe. And he put it in his book called Nature Knows No Color Line. You're digging it? They were afraid that that was going to become normal material. So again, when they set up a curriculum in your school, there's a guideline on what books are allowed to be included in your learning, in your syllabus. That's the word you was reading. In your syllabi, in your syllabus. It would tell that these books are allowed, these books aren't. That's what the Board of Regents make decisions on. Y'all follow me? So as they make decisions, they say these books are allowed, these books are not. When Jeffries and the rest of them was coming up, their books was too cut. They said, wait a minute. Maybe you don't know where this could lead to, but we're going to cut that off before you go too far, and you might learn something that we don't want you to learn about. So we're going to find, like he said, a red herring to pull the whole thing down. Y'all all right? That's why it never came to fruition. Everybody's with me. So I'm going to leave that alone for a second. Now, so the truth is we're in Europe. Now, give me, I said iconoclasm. I don't want that yet. Give me J.A. Rogers' book, The Moors in Spain. J.A. Rogers, this is what I wrote. The book is Nature Knows No Color Line. No, I didn't send it to you? Hold on. Say something again. Here we go again.
Deep. There's more, Deep. There's more. So later on in this article, this article was written in 1991. There was an editor trying to defend him named Anthony Neves. Here's what he said in defense of Dr. Jeffries. He said, I think the media is trying to get back at Jeffries because he is an outspoken African-American critic of the white establishment, he said. Mr. Neves said he was not offended by Dr. Jeffries' remarks and said that he agreed with the professor's view on the Jews' role in financing the slave trade, as well as their domination of Hollywood. I don't think that's anti-Semitic, Mr. Neves said. Those are facts. So it was a little bit more, Deep. It was a little bit more. It says, last spring, a City College faculty committee rebuked Dr. Jeffries for comments on black racial superiority that it called outrageous and possibly offensive. But the committee, citing the need for academic freedom, recommended that the college take no disciplinary action against Dr. Jeffries. In his speech, Dr. Jeffries also complained of racial pathology and white historians' systematic effort to strip Africa of its significance and place in the world. Nice, friendly white folks. That was his quote. The friendly neighborhood white man. That's what he was trying to say.
I remember some of them names that he was bringing up back then, too. He was fighting back like hell. Okay. Now, let's start putting these pictures up. Everybody stay with me now. So, remember the time period that we're in, right? Rome was overthrown by Severus Septimius, which was the gladiators, and the black Jew gladiators that was with him began to rule in Rome and all over Spain and all of Europe. And that's when they went into what is known as the Dark Ages. Everybody's with me so far, right? This is the history that they've been hiding. Get the cover of the book. Oh, you sending it to them? All right. So brothers are getting it loaded up. And what we're going to see is, like I mentioned about J.A. Rogers. I mentioned that J.A. Rogers was a scholar, black man, that had the credentials to be able to go into the rare sections of these libraries, to go inside go inside the Fairbairn's book. That's what it was called, the Fairbairn's Book of the Royal Crests. These are the coats of arms, so you can understand, of the royal families throughout those areas in Europe. That's what J.A. Rogers had access to. Okay? They got it? All right, brothers, let it rip. This is now, remember now, we ruling in Europe. These are the records that's going to prove that we ruled. Okay? And when did this rulership start? After 193 AD. That's when Rome went into what is known as the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages, so you can understand. Everybody's with me so far? Now, this is the book here. The book is called Nature Knows No Color Line, J.A. Rogers. Let's go inside the book. That's the last picture I want to see you. Go to some of the earlier ones. Yep, click, click, click. Let me see what those say. Okay, this is good. This is something for y'all to know. I'm kind of out of step, but I just wanted to show y'all this because I wanted to save this for later on. But note what it says here, because I'm going to connect this with another book by Lerone Bennett. You know what? Let me save that. Go to the next picture, because I know the reason why I went here, but I'm going to save that for later. Giving them pictures, that's what I want. Right. Zoom in on some of that. Look at them black heads. Okay, let's get the bottom. Let's see what the writing says. Move over to this part here. It says center aisle, arms of, I can't see it. What did I say? Arms of Arguin, Spain. Center right, arms of Kaminsberg, Austria, Australia. St. Peter, foremost saint and found black Negro. So a lot of us was, there's some history about this Catholic stuff too. We're going to touch that later on. but showing you, look at them black heads all over the place before I get into all this Catholic stuff. Y'all follow me? Letting you know that black people was ruling. Now, I'm just showing you the weakest of the information I'm about to pound you in the head with in a minute. What's the next page? I'm just wanting y'all to see these black images. Give me that. Zoom in on that. Now, this was during a time when you look at the same, what does it say? Germany and Portugal. Can y'all see that? Look at the screen. Germany and Portugal. Look at all them black heads. And I was making a point that, let me see, move up some, because I wrote, that's my handwriting at the bottom. And it's making a point. Do y'all see they had what they call the Magen David, or what people mistakenly call the Shield of David? That was black people putting that on their coats of arms to show you that they were Jews. Y'all follow me? Do y'all see that? Moving around. Can y'all see them black people there? Now, this is going to be significant. I'm going to show you a video after this. Coats, Negroes, I'm glad he put the word there, Negroes in coats of arms. Do y'all see that? Do y'all know what y'all looking at? Let me stop right there. Do y'all know what y'all seeing? Give me the next page. Give me that one there. Well, no, the one, yeah, that's the one I need right there. I'm going to end it with this one, then I'm going to get back to my lesson. I want y'all to zoom in on some of those heads, and you're going to notice that they got the word more in their name. I got it highlighted. See them? Huh? Move around. Zoom in on that. It's kind of hard to see. Can y'all see it? It says, Negroes in coats of arms of what? Noble families. Okay, you got the first highlight part says Marian, meaning black. You'll see the black heads there. You see all them black heads in them records. Now move down to the bottom. Y'all can see all them black heads in there, right? Everybody can see. This is hidden information that you ain't gonna learn in your schools. These lying schools. Your sons and daughters need to understand this history so they're not walking around confused. Talking about what happened to the Jews after 70 AD. This is what happened. Now look at the bottom. It says what? Zoom in on that. I can't read it. It says names of families. Okay, names of families. Zoom it up here so I can read it from your thing. I don't know why I didn't get it clear enough. Names of families except one denote that denote Negro ancestry. Okay, except three. So all of those heads in there is representing provinces throughout all Europe. Now move to the page on the other side. Poland, y'all see that? Poland, Italian, Spanish, Polish families. Who's ruling? Black people. Y'all see this? Y'all all right? Black people was ruling in Europe. Spain. There's more pictures. What is at the top of that? Move to the top. At the top, some more. Negroes, okay, it's saying the same thing. Negroes and coats of arms of noble families. Now, give me the video. I sent the video to y'all. I'm going to come back to iconoclasm in a second. Wait. No. I'll get the video after this. Give me I got to send an icon. Say something again. Here we go.
Hey, this history is what Deke is sharing with us. I got to go back to that book I found at the library, Cap Josiah. It's talking about this. It talked about Alexander. It brings up all the captivities. I found it in the Bible bookstore. I mean, just a regular bookstore. My thing is that when I was talking with Deke, we have to go in these places because a lot of those books that we need, they are in those places. And I'm pretty sure there's a couple of places that y'all brothers need to be visiting. Any place that sell bookstores, go in there, and you'll find a lot of that history in there. I turned around and I got 8 books for under $100 of things that I didn't even know that. I think I got that one Deke got that Roman. Yeah, I got that one out of there. Yeah.
The elders at the old school used to tell us, say, you brothers that's running out here trying to buy every book you see, you mess around and buy something and a demon fly out the book and mess your head up. Okay? run across something and they be all bugged out. Talk about space and this and that and the other. So, all right.
Hey, speaking of books, Officer Issachar had found a book. What was that book? You got it right there? What's the title of it?
Is Rugged's International Thesaurus, 3rd edition. It was in 1834.
So it's a thesaurus.
Yeah.
In the thesaurus, what's the word you looked up?
Peoples.
Peoples. And he went under Negro. Tell him the definition real quick under the thesaurus under Negro. He put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Real fast, so you can find it.
Yeah.
If you can't find it, I'll just tell him. You got it? All right, I'm going to tell him. Under Negro, one of the terms it used, the image of God. It said the image of God. That's in that book right there. It's a thesaurus. It's on site. Yeah, you got the image? There it is.
Hey, let them get an eyeball of that. Now, that ain't going to put a demon on you. Huh? Yeah.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
You
Zoom in on that thing. They got to see that.
Yeah.
Now, why would it? Now, this is an authority, so this is like the origin of words. So they said that we can put this in the book because the Negro ain't going to look at these things. But it's good for us to know that these are the children of God.
It says Negro, colored person, blackamoor, Jim Crow slang.
Blackamoor, that's the section that we're reading about now, the Moors in Spain. Some of y'all might have, because I've said the Moors in Spain, and they would give you a little glimpse of this so-called black history by saying about the Moors in Spain in 711 AD. How many of y'all ever heard about that? What they call the Moors that ruled in Spain. Y'all heard about that? That's the time period that I'm talking about. But what they put along with that information, that they said that the Moors were Arabs. No, they were Jews. They were black Jews. They want to throw you off again with that lie. Y'all all right? All right. Now, ain't that something? It says the image of God, the Negro, the image of God. So this is being passed backwards and forwards to them. Yes, sir.
They have something in here that's going right along with what you had mentioned for your class about the Moors and the Jews being expelled from Spain.
What do you got?
It's in Babylon, Timbuktu.
Okay, bring it out.
Page 116. It says, it is estimated that over 100,000 Jews departed from Spain and Portugal during the persecutions and the expulsion.
You hear that? And the expulsion of Spain. That's perfect. Right on the point. That's what I was talking about last week. Now, we got articles here that is outside of Rudolph R. Windsor that's saying the same thing. Y'all all right? So now, where we at? So now, again, let me bring you back to where we are in time. We're in our time capsule. We're traveling through history. Everybody's with me. So now we're in the Dark Ages. What is called they called it the Dark Ages because we were ruling over them. It was dark for them. Y'all all right? So now we're ruling in Spain and Europe and them different areas that I showed you from J.A. Rogers' book. Now, show the cover of this book here called The Icon. The Icon, The Icon, this is the book that I talked about last week. I don't know if I showed it on the screen. I actually bought this book out of one of the museums in New York. I think it was the Cloisters Museum in Upper Manhattan. That's where I bought this book from. So this book has paintings, photographs of paintings that was painted by the Israelites, the Jews that was ruling throughout Europe, throughout these 7 major epochs. And it names the epochs, the areas where these paintings are found. That's what this book records. Y'all follow me? Everybody's understanding what I'm saying. Black image of Moses and all of that it's in this book, okay? Now, I want to read the section that's called, give me the next page. This is what I want here. Zoom in on that. First of all, it says the icons, let's go back, by Kurt Weitzman, the icons of Constantinople. That's where that battle happened in 1453. Okay, everybody's with me so far. Where Rome, where the so-called white man was taking back what we had ruled. That's what we're reading about here. Everybody's with me. Follow me. Follow what I'm about to show you now. This was the time period where the whites was coming out of the Dark Ages under the period that was called the Renaissance. The Renaissance, the word Renaissance means the rebirth. The rebirth of what? The rebirth of what the black Jews had overthrown. So they're saying we're getting it back. A lot of people sitting up in school reading about the Renaissance, and that never crossed their mind. What do you mean Renaissance? Renaissance from what? Then all of a sudden, mum's the word. Nobody won't want to say anything. Y'all all right? But the Renaissance was their coming back. Their deadly wound was healed, so you can understand what's written in the Bible. That's what that's talking about there. Y'all follow me? We wounded their head in 193 AD and overthrew them and was ruling all throughout Europe for damn near 1,000 some odd years. Everybody's with me? So this is the time period when they was getting it back. This is where it started. Their conquest to get these epics back. Y'all follow me? Let's read. Zoom in. Get at the top. We're going to start from the top. We beyond the highlighter. Start at the very top. You got it? Can you see it?
It's a little blurry.
Okay.
It says iconoclasm.
Iconoclasm. Anybody know what that word? Look it up. Look up iconoclasm. Let's start there. Let's look up the word iconoclasm. Because the name of the book is the icons, right? Being that the book is named the icons, icons are images of famous or religious personality. Moses, David, Solomon, Christ. Pictures, icons, iconography, like what they would call it. Okay, what did it say there? Iconoclasm. Can we see that?
Yes, sir.
What did it say?
Definition 2, the rejection or destruction of religious images as heretical, the doctrine of iconoclasts.
Why they call it heretical? Like it's a heretic. Because it's a heretic to them because it did not reflect them. Give me Maccabees 3:48, please. Maccabees 3:48. Then we're going to come back to this book.
This is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 3 and verse 48.
Everybody's with me? Come on.
And laid open the book of the law.
And the Greeks laid open the Bible, the book of the law,
wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
Who were the heathens during the time of the Maccabees? The Greeks. Y'all all right? Read.
Verse 49.
48 again.
48. And laid open the book of the law.
And what did these heathens do? They opened up our Bibles.
Wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
Where the heathen have sought to paint the likeness of their images in our Bible. They changed Jesus from black to white. They changed Moses from black to white. They changed David from black to white. They changed the Jews from black to white. So how did they do it? They destroyed the black images. That's what it's telling you there. It says the rejection, not only did they reject it, they destroyed what it say? The religious images. Is that what I say? It's kind of small.
Yes, sir.
The religious images. So they destroyed the real image of Christ. They destroyed the real image of Moses, David, Solomon, Isaiah, John, Peter, Paul. That's what they did. This book has what the original pictures look like. The book that I'm about to read from. Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
Everybody's with me. Now let's go back to the book. Let's start it off again. I'm going to read it because I can see it a little better. Everybody's with me? It says iconoclasm, which is the destruction of religious pictures, of icons. Everybody's with me so far, right? It says Venetian looting in 1204 and the sack by the Turks in 1453. That's the battle that I was talking about. The Ottoman Turks. They were the ones, the Edomites. In 1453 are the main reasons why only few icons survived in Constantinople proper. Did y'all hear what I just read? They're saying that there's only a few that survived proper, in its proper state. It may be daring. This is what the author writes. He said, it may be daring. See, Kurt Weitzman is a so-called Jew. He's making the point. This is his writing. He says, it may be daring, therefore, to write an entire chapter on the icons of the Capitol. It may be daring because there's so few of them left. So how could I devote a whole chapter to this? Everybody's with me. This is what he's writing. Everybody's with me so far. Then he goes on to say, yet the situation is not quite so hopeless as might appear at first glance. He said, wait a minute. We might be able to find some. Icons existed not only as panel paintings. I can't zoom in a little bit more. Oh, okay, I see. Icons existed not only as panel paintings, but also as frescoes and wall mosaics. Here's the part. Some of these paintings and frescoes and wall mosaics, I'm putting those words in there, some of which have emerged from layers of whitewash. Some of the images that he's writing about have emerged. In other words, we found some that were not whitewashed, and I'm going to make a chapter devoted to that. So he's putting black images all throughout the book. But we will not know that. You cut off the curriculum of inclusion so the people in the schools can't learn this. You have it written in your religions, in your history books, that nobody knows the history of you black folk prior to the 1600s. Nobody knows what happened to the Israelites that came out of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Nobody even questioned it. All of a sudden, they just manufactured a group out of a microwave and said, these are the Jews. Pop. Boom. These are the Israelites. And get Negro preachers like T.D. Jason talking about these are the dry bones coming back into Israel after 1948. A stone cold lie. But meanwhile, we're walking around with question marks in our heads because our leaders have lied to us and not bringing out these facts here. We didn't write these books. How is it that we're bringing this information out? Because they've been hiding it among themselves. The problem is that if your mind is not on a channel that they put it on, you might find out what they don't want you to find out. But if they're confident that our brain is manipulated, they say we can put it in plain sight and they will never see it. But if you ever break out of the mold from what they have said, you might venture off into areas that we don't want you in and come up with some of these records. Y'all follow me? They don't understand. That's the marvelous work that the Lord says is going to work in our day. Though it be told to them, they won't believe. The Most High is going to rise up the Israelites in the face and set in the face of our enemies and set us in order in the presence of our enemies. He said that. Okay, so that's the reason why this information is coming out. So it says, some of which have emerged from layers of whitewash to give an undiluted, meaning not tampered with, not whitewashed, to give an undiluted impression of the highest achievement of Constantinopolitan art. So that's what he puts in his book. In other words, the images are black. And I'm going to put them in this book. Y'all understand that? How many so-called Negroes have this book in their repertoire, in their libraries, in their home libraries? Probably none of them. Because their mind has been put on channel 0. They don't understand books like this even exist. Y'all all right? I'm just throwing that stuff out there. Now, okay, we could take that down. Now, I sent the video. There's a video, The Moors of Spain. Do y'all have it? That's it right there. I want y'all to, now I'm going to show y'all this is a 5-minute video. It's got a nice bit of music to it. I was actually trying to find the name of the music, but that has nothing to do with the class because there's a nice set of music there. But I want y'all to pay attention to the images that y'all see in this film. Now, incidentally, if y'all ever watched the video that Bishop did on the history behind Christmas, Bishop had this inside that class. Y'all understand? And it was showing you that it wasn't just J.A. Rogers just talking, because you had Edomites that were trying to say that, oh, J.A. Rogers just made that up. And he had drawings. And they would say, oh, those are just drawings. Well, these are actual photographs of what J.A. Rogers talked about in his book to let you know that it was not something made up. You follow me? That's what you're going to see in this video here. Now, there's certain parts of this video that I want to stop because I want to show y'all something when times changed. I don't think we really brought that out in that class, but I'm going to do it today. Everybody's with me so far? Hit it. These are the Moors it said the Moors, Europe. Turn it up a little bit. Ain't no words. I just want y'all to that's good. Now y'all see you're gonna start, see them blackheads there? Play on. Stop right there. You see these blackheads on the buildings. Y'all follow me? Some of us traveled to Brussels, Belgium, different areas of Europe, and you can actually see when you go and look on the buildings, you actually see these things. So this is not a comic book. Y'all dig what I'm saying? Play on. And we took pictures of it. Go ahead. Pause it. We were certain at pictures like that earlier, right? Coats of arms. There it is in color. Go ahead. So y'all see those black images, they're flaunted everywhere, right? Y'all notice the scenery is changing, right? I'm gonna make a point of that. Look at that. Look at that. Pause it. You remember that? They got those Magen Davids on there letting you know that these were Jews. Y'all see this? Play on. Now, if you notice that you see it a lot on the flags, right? And you see that they're doing it, and then you see Edomites standing around holding the flags and posing with it and all that. That's significant. That's significant. They're making mockery because what they're saying is that, well, the rest of as a thing play out, I'm going to address why the Edomites are posing with these pictures. Y'all all right? Play on. So you see they're wearing like it's a status symbol, right? Y'all noticing that. But they're wearing it for a different reason. Israelites posing, holding our pictures up. Moore's Head. Hold it, pause it, stop. I was showing y'all this earlier out of the book. So they got, go ahead. Pause it right here. This is what I wanted. Stop right here. This statue of this Edomite is commemoration of them taking Spain back. Y'all all right? Earlier, we was talking about blacks who were ruling, so we was in rulership. I want y'all to pay attention from here on out. Look at the statue and look at the bottom of the statue and tell me what you see. Slaves. Play on. Women too. There's the women chained up. The white man takes over now. So the brother who put this together said, know thyself and know your history. It's heavy that he was able to, I don't know who this brother is, but Bishop found this video and he incorporated it in that video, and I thought it was poignant to bring it out in this class here. Now, what you looked at, the scene where you saw them chained up at the bottom, we're going to read about that history now. Y'all all right? Because this is when we were starting, this is called that at that point there that you was looking at what is known as the expulsion of the Jews from Spain. Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna look for say something real quick. I'm gonna get my next picture set up.
All right, yeah, shalom, y'all, everybody. I remember. I'm glad Deacon bringing this class out right here. I remember like being in the military and also with my job now. You know, what I'm saying, we go to Germany. We go to Europe. They have what they call Viking tours, and they got a lot of tours that you can go and look at all the castles. And, you know, a lot of our people are stationed over there in the military, or they may go on vacation, and they got all these beautiful, you know, castles. A lot of them are ruins. So they have all these, you know, vacation, you know, like, you know, visiting and checking those things out, taking pictures, but we have no history or realization that, hey, that was us that lived in them castles. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to bring that out. If somebody else want to say something.
Hey, they say that's anti-Semitic. It's everything we just getting went over. That's anti-Semitic. But like the brothers bringing out, all these was facts, but it could never enter into our school systems because that would destroy the very foundation of what the white man's been setting up for so long. He's put too much effort into keeping us enslaved, controlled, asleep. You seen a couple of those pictures had the blindfold around their eyes? What you think? And how many of those Edomites had it on they have a whole what you call it, a portrait, and then the tiniest little detail be in the ring. That's not for us. That's a little code between them. It's like we still got them asleep. We still got them asleep. They didn't see this. That's like I said in Psalms 83. They are confederate against thee. This is how they pass messages in plain sight. But they know we'll never look there. We're not looking at art. We're not looking at the words. Can we get that first Maccabees real quick again? 3 and 48.
First Maccabees chapter 3 verse 48. Mm-hmm. And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
Now you know paint. They literally painted over them. But think about it. You ever heard somebody? Oh, you painted that picture with your words. Paint a picture. The white man has painted himself with words as well as the Jews. He'll paint the picture so well, we look at those images and think that's all one guy. It's like they just took a picture of the same guy over and over again. That's not one guy. That's the Moors. That's all of us. And they also had the women up there. They say, oh, just one. That was just one. What did it say? Saint Maurice? What did it say? Saint Maurice? It says all Saint Maurice right there. Even the women. That was Saint Maurice. No, that's us. We were the ruling class. We were royalty. But they used iconoclasm. And then they even used their lying words. The white man, he's beyond just lies. These are well-crafted deceits. These are like expert lies. He took time and formulated how to hide our identity. Billions of dollars and bloodshed. And then they're bold and put that, I don't know the name of that statue, but they got the brothers, the so-called white man standing boldly on top of those 4 slaves with the chains attached to them. That's heavy just to put that out there. No one, you ain't ask no questions? This ain't in the school system? Black History Month? We don't see that Black History Month? I've never seen that before. That's some heavy information. It's a great class. A great class.
Hey, you know something too, Officer Rewell, you pulled something out about the blindfold, right? Because you notice the blindfold was actually a bandana on his head, correct? Like I said, telling Cap to pull this thing out. But the blindfold was actually on the forehead. Y'all remember that? And they put it on his eyes. That's like saying to them, what you have seen before, you will see no more, which is your rulership. All right. And then you also look at how they took the images and put it on their rings, put it on a necklace. That was like a memorial of those that once had rulership over us. All right. So that's some heavy, heavy stuff that's coming out right now. So y'all brothers, y'all pay attention.
It's like a war prize.
Exactly. Trophies.
Spoils of war.
Right. Right.
Yeah, trophy. That's excellent. Wait, trophies. Us as living trophies. That's very heavy.
Saying officer, yeah, just to go along with that, they celebrate that thing every year about us being destroyed when they say Merry Christmas. They celebrate that thing every year. We destroyed them, and now we're going to commemorate that destruction on December the 25th. Matter of fact, let's get them to do it too. Let's say that their Lord was born on this day.
And that lesson Dick did yesterday, Dick had pulled out, is it Dr. Dupree? What's her name? Dr. Joe Leary. Joe Leary. She began to go in there and talk about the generational part of it, of the condition that we've been in. It's generational. Even though, like us now, we'll begin to go back into that history and bring that history out. And over the course of time, she was talking about how we've been conditioned that way over all these years. But, you know, to be able for us to be able to sit in this room and to get this history and have it coming out for our hearing, and now we can see about our history, now you're anti-Semitic. You want to steal, I think one of the captains, I think it might have been, I don't know who claimed it, culture vultures. I'm telling you, they will steal anything. And they trying to steal this history. And that was when I was talking to Dick, he was coming up the road, he was sharing with us, that's the work that we have to do, brothers. This work that we're doing, you know, the Most High called y'all all in here to help do this work. He called every last one of us to do this work, man. Let us help push the prophets and do the things that we must do. This is a great work to do. This is an honorable work. This is something that you can really share with your family and help restore the nation of Israel. So it's an honorable work, brothers. It really is.
Hey, somebody give me Lamentations 2:16 real quick, just to add to the point that I was just bringing out in regards to the blindfolds and things to that nature. Grab that for me.
This is the book of Lamentations, chapter 2 and verse 16. Mm-hmm. All thy enemies have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash the teeth.
That's because they were angry. They opened their mouths up against us. They spoke proverbs against us. Read on.
They say, we have swallowed her up.
That they say that we have swallowed them up, right? that when you look at the statue with the slaves at the bottom, that was like them actually swallowing, that's destroying us. Read on.
Certainly, this is the day that we looked for.
This is the day that they looked for. This is the day that they dreamed. That was the Renaissance, all right? The rebirth of them coming back into power, into rulership. Read on.
We have found, we have seen
Say,
it.
we have found, we have seen it. They've seen it, all right? So again, like when you look at the blindfold, right? It was the blindfold was actually like a bandana. Then it moved from the bandana onto the eyes. So what they see now, those that was once in rulership shall see it no more. All right? So just keep that in mind.
We're trying to get that image back up, but they had that I guess that was the one that had came back in power, but they had our people in chains on that statue. Y'all said somewhere they celebrated. Yeah.
It's called the Monument of the Four Moors. That particular one. It called it the Four Moors. Can y'all Google that? The Monument of the Four Moors. Give me Psalms, that one, 85 and 11 real quick. Psalms 85 and 11 real fast.
Psalm chapter 85 and verse 11. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven.
That's that precept for the earth shall help the woman. That's just research, just truth coming all from all these books and old photos. Now we understand through the scriptures. That's a history right there. That's what the so-called white man puts in our face, but we were too asleep to see it. But that right there, that's called the Monument of the Four Moors.
Somebody keep that up right there. Get Ecclesiastes 10 and 7. The one with I think they got that statue, somewhere in America, I guess in New York, how Esau conquered Judah and Ephraim.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 7. I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth.
So like that same statue you see the so-called Native American, you got Gad being conquered, and you got Judah being conquered, and you got the Esau on the horse, on the nag or whatever. That hey, we destroyed them here in America. We also we first destroyed them there in Europe. So it's like the same concept. Hey, you see that picture there? We got to get that picture, and we got to use that picture there. That's the first time I ever seen that picture. I ain't never seen that, but that must be, we got to use that again in class.
Right, that's showing a sign of a confederacy. See there? That's showing a sign of confederacy. When you have them, Esau up on a horse with the slaves down at the bottom. That's conquering. All right, that's what their motto is: to conquer, to destroy. All right, conquer to destroy. All right.
It's located in Italy. That is located in Italy.
That particular picture there?
Yep,
Turn back to the other one before. The one with the horse. That picture is in New York City. That picture is outside of the Museum of Natural History. It's on Central Park West, 8th Avenue, and 81st Street. Well, they're talking about tearing it down now. That's the one that we always refer to, Teddy Roosevelt on the horse. So I used to pass by that. That thing is always, it's been there, right in front of the entrance to the museum. Teddy Roosevelt on the horse with Gad on one side and Judah on the other side. That's where that picture is there. Okay, and a lot of thinking went into making that statue. No, the video, I was talking about the expulsion, right? The expulsion from Spain, the expulsion, the picture the statue that we was looking at, right? Everybody's with me? The statue that y'all just showed. Show that statue again, because y'all had a clear image of it. Right. Put that one back up there. I was at this point in the history. This picture here. This right here is commemorating them taking back Spain.
Deke, something heavy. One more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing.
Go ahead.
And this is from Wikipedia. It says the four Moors symbolize the four corners of the world.
Wow. That's why they put them that way, because they said that they ruled all of our world. Y'all see that? Wow. So when they took it back in 1453 and exposed us out of that, that's where these other things come from here. Now, like I said, there was a time period when the persecution had started, because we was reading in some of the dates, some of the information started. Some of the oppression began as early as the 1204 and stuff like that. So the persecution against our people was starting even then. And some of us was leaving Spain and coming over to the Americas. Now, coming over to the Americas. Now go to the pictures that I just sent you. And I'm looking for the section in there. Okay, we're talking about that. Past that, go back to the book. Right. This is the book that I was talking about. Lerone Bennett Jr. put this book together entitled Before the Mayflower, A History of Black America by Lerone Bennett Jr. This book has a lot of information in it. Click the next picture, because it'll tell you that the book is now like $90-something. It was that thing there. So how much is it now? It said like $92. Okay, $92.80. All right, now let's get to the pages. Okay. The most important of these events was the European discovery of America and the opening of the New World. That's when they were coming over here. It is a point of paradoxical interest that the descendants of the first black captives, black Christians born in Spain and Portugal, were the first quote-unquote Europeans and settlers. So basically they're telling you that the blacks that was free, because there weren't no European, what they call them? European settlers, BS. They were not European explorers. They were fleeing from the persecution of what you just saw that statue pointed out. Did y'all catch that? So when they came over here, they were coming over here. That's the reason why I believe that Ivan Van Sertima wrote that book, They Came Before Columbus. I believe that was the point that he was making in that. The Jews was coming over from Spain to over here. Let's move around, because I'm looking for another part. Just move around, because I'm looking for all my blue. What does it say there? An estimated million of these slaves found their way to the new land and became the United States of America. But the first, that's the part I wanted right there. It says the first black immigrants, Antonio, Isabella, and the Jamestown group were not slaves, because they were running from it. Y'all all right? It says this is of critical importance in the history of Black America. It says they came, these first blacks, the same way that most of the first white immigrants came under duress and pressure. Never mind the white ones. It's telling you that we came because of the persecution that we was facing. Y'all getting this so far? Y'all understand it? Okay. All right. That was the section in the book when it says that they came and they had Spanish names. That's what I was looking for. Antonio, those were the names there. There was a section in the book where it said they came with Spanish names, letting you know that they came from Spain. Now, just for a second, go back to J.A. Rogers. Okay, I'm done with that. Go back to J.A. Rogers. Remember that picture that I showed earlier and I said I'll use it for later? I want to bring that in now, just for a second. Then I want to read this article, then we're going to get ready for Bishop. Go back to J.A. Rogers. Come out of look for now. Move through it, because I know the page when I see it. I want y'all to see something. These two different books, two different brothers writing about the same thing. Click, 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 click. Hold it. Click. What does that say? Zoom in on that. The Negro came first to the Indies from Spain, not from Africa. Do y'all see that? Zoom in a little closer so they can see that. They came from Spain. So who were they? They were the black Jews that was ruling in Spain that they came over. That's what the other brother was talking about, and that's what he's saying. Y'all understand that? Everybody's with me so far. And that's what that statue was showing you, because they had us in captivity. Now, get my articles. We put all this to the side. Did y'all ever get the articles, or did I send them? The article, the one that I want, because I ain't got a lot of time, I want to go to Rasta Live Wire. That's it. Let's get the reading. You ready, Abraham? Let's start it off. Keep in mind everything that I showed y'all, right? This is after, right, y'all can see it up here. This is after Constantinople. This was after they came and took us out of Spain, pushed us into Portugal, and from Portugal, there was many of us that were still there, but there were earlier ones had already come to this side here. That's what I was showing you earlier. Everybody's with me?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's start reading.
The Ladino Moors, the Jews of Cape Verde.
You're going to find out about that word Ladino for a second. It almost sounds like Latino, right? Because that's where it comes from. Let's read.
The Guinea Rivers and Gulf of Biafra.
Biafra, meaning on the west, the coast, the coastal lands of Africa. Now, we saw this picture in the video, but start reading. Let's see if we can read this a little faster.
The decline of the Moors.
Go ahead. The taking over of the blacks, like what you saw in the pictures. Everybody's with me?
Yes, sir.
This is the history that they don't want us to know about. What happened to the Jews in 70 AD? We go out to read about it now. Come on.
The Moors.
And this just happened in Spain. You still had the same situation that was going on all over Europe later, but this is where it started. The first sign of the Europeans getting back all of Europe began in Spain and Rome with the battle at Constantinople. 1453 to 1492 when they set up the white Christ of Caesar Borgia as Christ. This is the era that it's talking about here. So during the time of Spain and Portugal, this is what we're reading about here. Everybody's with me? Read.
The Moors of the Iberian Peninsula,
meaning Spain. I'm just making it simple. Go ahead.
Suffered great and
so the Moors of Spain suffered great incalculable losses when their centuries-old rule was brought to a violent end in Spain. I'm sorry, I just wanted to brought to a violent end in Spain in 1492, which is the beginning of the Renaissance, following a loss of Caliphate and Grenada. When y'all watch that, if y'all watch 1492, The Conquest of Paradise, that movie about Christopher Columbus, where they talked about sailing over and finding Israel over here. Y'all remember we played clips of that before? It says Ezra is a Jew. That movie. They showed also in that same movie, they showed a few things. They showed the Inquisition, because that's what I'm about to talk about now. The Inquisition, what they would say they were burning witches. That's what they tell the lie at school. It weren't witches they were burning. They was burning us that would not allow ourselves to be baptized in Christianity. Those are the people that they call Moranos. I got those articles here. Those are the people that they call Moranos, and those are the people that they call conversos. Because they were saying that we would convert to Christianity so that we could see our sons, so we could see our daughter, because they were splitting our families up. Y'all dig me? So I'm just running through this history real quick because time is running out. So it says, beginning from the brothers on the IT, I'm starting to read again. Beginning from the same 1492 in Spain and 1497 in Portugal, the exile of the original Dark Sons was inaugurated. The conquering European, filled with the strange bloodlust of an incurable pathological jealousy of the Moors. That's the reason why they were holding them pictures up and all that, because they was like, we finally got them, and we're going to make mockery. Y'all all right? Insatiable. That's their nature. But it was their simple wish to dispossess the Moorish owners of the land, confiscate all of the properties, and enslave their bodies. Move down. It is easy. Move down faster, because I want to read it. Where am I? I think you passed what I want to read. Is that where I'm going? Okay. It was easy and simple for them, because the fight for Iberia, this is talking about Spain, had been drawn across racial lines, so-called white Asiatic Europeans versus the black and brown Africans and Afro-Arabians. No, I'm talking about the Israelites. The New World Order, this is what I'm going to get to. Just hang on for a second. Let me follow in here. The New World Order. The Moors occupied the landmass where Lisbon, this is all talking about Spain, is currently situated. And in their time, they called it Lisbona. They had ruled for 400 years since 711. Remember, I was talking about how the Moors the Moors in your history was known that they ruled in Spain from 711 AD. This is what they're talking about here. 7 AD, only losing 700 AD, only losing their grip on power in 1147. Remember I said that they had started the persecution before they actually came fully conquered. It was during these times when we started to flee over to the side here. That's what I was showing them in the other books. From that date until 1249, when Christian crusaders conquered Algarve, the Moors lost land and authority before the hordes of inner Europe. These Christians here were blacks fighting blacks. A lot of the blacks were tricked and fooled and was following along with Esau and used them to fight against us. You might hear some of us talk about how we lost Europe through internal fighting. This is what it was talking about. Blacks was turning against each other because we allowed them to start listening to them, some of us. And that was a fatal mistake. Y'all follow me? Let me jump down because I know time is running. I'm going to get to the main meat. The Crusaders. Okay, finally, I'm going to go up. Let me just read. I'm going to just stay where I'm at. Following the complete conquest, jump up a little bit, yeah. Following the complete, come up a little bit, just a little bit. Right there. Following the complete conquest of Portugal in 1249, the Crusaders gradually tightened the noose around the Moors' neck, literally speaking, meaning they were killing us. Discrimination got worse. Ordinary folk were constantly harassed. Moors were under unrelenting suspicion of disloyalty, insurrection, and rebellion. Disloyalty, insurrection, and rebellion. So they were making our situation very hard. That's the reason why I said that we were leaving. You'll follow me. They were imposed with excessive taxes. Their cultural rights were abridged. Language was restricted. Political and business space became increasingly non-accessible. Finally, with the conquest of Granada in 1492, like I said, they showed you that in the movie, by the Spanish branch of the Crusaders. Now, this is Esau now, coming in, doing his thing now. All hell was let loose on the hapless Moors living in Spain and Portugal at that time. So the question is, what are we doing in Spain and Portugal? Because these were the same descendants were the ones that was taken out of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Everybody's understanding me now? These were not Africans. This was us. Everybody's with me. The word is it's going to prove out as I keep going. The Crusaders decided that the fact of being a Moor was criminal enough in itself so that the Moors were required to symbolically renounce their heritage and culture. So that's what they were doing. They were persecuting us. We could not practice Judaism, so you can understand. That's what they're saying. And it's going to prove it. The writing is going to tell you that. They were required to adopt a new identity as Christians called conversos. That's what I was talking about earlier. These were the converts to Christian baptizing. Bishop was showing that in some of his classes. That information that he was bringing out, this is what it was talking about. Everybody's with me. Called conversos. Sometimes these new Christians were called Moranos, blacks. There you go again. Okay, so conversos and Moranos was an interchangeable name that was put upon us for converting and being the black Jews that did not want to succumb to being baptized in white man Christianity. This crap that they have in the churches that T.D. Jakes is teaching now. We were against that. Conversos were like second-class Christians of Portugal. Those who would not convert and accept their official second-class status as decultured animals were then forcibly expelled either as prisoners, slaves, or refugees. So they was pushing us out. That's what we're reading here, right? The notorious institution, y'all with me? The notorious institution known as the Inquisition. Let me show you some of the stuff that was going on in the Inquisition. Show that picture. Because I'm going to speed this up because I know it's about to come out. I'm going to have to really speed it up and just stop it because Bishop about to come on. I sent a picture, the last thing that I sent you. That one right there, show that. This is what they were doing during the Inquisition. You can take this off the screen for a minute. I want y'all to see this. See, this is part of the Inquisition. This is what they were talking about. Look at how they was torturing our people. Zoom in on that. Look at that. Look at what these bastards was doing. Look at that. That's the kind of cruelness that the people were going through back then. Then they got illustrations showing you that that's how they did us, cut us up and all of that. I got pictures from, I'm going to just say this because I know we're running out. Let me just talk the rest of it because I can't. Let me just find a part of here where it said that these were the Jews. Move up into the article where it says Latinos. Right there. Latinos mean Latinized Negroes, right there. So let me go a little bit before that. Let me just say something. Give me a second. The notorious institution known as the Inquisition, that's what I was showing you there with that picture, how they were sawing us. A system of spies, secret police, tortures, confessions, and swift executions was established. It was responsible for the death of millions of Moors all over Europe. The pictures of us all over with the four pointing in the four different directions. So they was persecuting us all over where they could find us. Moors all over Europe, but especially those of the Arabian Peninsula, meaning in the Spain area. It lasted for hundreds of years, torturing, maiming, and killing all real and suspected enemies of the new European loyalty. So when they took over the royal families, all them bastards got nothing to do with the real families. That was us. Y'all all right? All that Prince Charles, and all that Queen Elizabeth BS. J.A. Rogers got the real pictures of what the first families. Elizabeth I was a black woman. It lasted for hundreds of years. Years torturing, maiming, and killing all real and suspected enemies of the new European royalty. Its bloodlust, sadism, and cruelty are now live in infamy. Those Moors it did not kill or maim were sold as slaves. Okay, this is the one now. They were putting us on the slave ships and sending us to the west coast of Africa. That's what this is talking about here. So the Moors were sold into Africa, and then from that point they were brought over here on the slave ships. That's the history that they did not want you to connect. While at the same time, Columbus and his demons was killing. And I got the books on that. There's a book entitled "The Destruction of the Indies," where they used to build pits. I got pictures. I wanted to show all of that. Pictures of poles, of poles in the ground. And they would throw the men, they would throw the women on it for them to be impaled. The book is called The Destruction of the Indies. A short account of the destructions of the enemy. Dalla Casas. That's his book. Now, what's the next paragraph? Go back to where I was at. Jump down. Right after what I just read. You're right. It so happened, thank you, brothers. It so happened that in 1496 and 97, Portuguese kings João II and Manuel hoarded hundreds of thousands of Jews. Of what? Of Jews. Sent them into exile on the West African coast of Guinea and Biafra. That's the Ivory Coast. Are y'all listening? The islands of Cape Verde and Sao Tome into a live and perpetual slavery. Who are these? Jews that was being brought into the slave trade, meaning the black people that was there. Some of us had fled down into Africa that was not part of that connection in Europe, because some of us left during the time when Christ said leave. So some of us was already there. But these were the ones that went into Spain and later and was brought to join us because they kept records on who was Jews or who were not. So it says, these particular branch of Iberian Moorish Hebrews were called Ladinos. Ladino means Latinized Negroes. Do y'all see that? So that's the connection that they were worried about Scobie bringing out over the radio. All the way back then. So I can stop there because I got more history, but I'm going to leave it there. But jump down in the right and see, y'all can see that the Moors, jump down just a little bit. Where's that part at where Ladinos mean? Move down a little bit more. I just want to read one word. Come on, move down. It's coming up. Exiled Moors, the Jews of Biafra. So it's letting you know that the Jews and the Moors are the same people. So they were not Arabs. They were not Muslims. These were the Jews that ruled Spain. And they were trying to baptize us into that Christian garbage. Okay? So I'm gonna end it there, brothers and sisters. Give me last scripture, Jeremiah 50, 33 and 34. I'm gonna end it there. So I hope y'all got a lot out of this. I hope y'all got something out of this class. So let's read that, and then we get ready for Bishop.
Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 33. Thus said the Lord of hosts.
Thus saith the Lord of hosts.
The children of Israel.
The children of Israel.
And the children of Judah were oppressed together.
So the enemies of the Most High knew that the Israelites would be the information I want to bring up, but I can stop here. I had more. We'll talk about it. We'll come back to this, but I have to tie it up with this here. Y'all all right?
Part 3.
Part 3?
Yeah. Part 3.
Come on now. Read.
And all that took them captives held them fast.
And all that took us captive held us fast and had us separated, making Northern Kingdom think they were different from us, and when it was all the same thing. It was all one plot. Go ahead.
They refused to let them go.
They refused to teach us the truth and let us go. Go ahead.
Verse 34. Their Redeemer is strong.
But our Redeemer is Christ. Our Redeemer is strong, and that's the reason why this information is coming out now. They never meant for you to hear this. Go ahead.
The Lord of hosts is his name.
The Lord of hosts is his name. Is that it?
He shall surely plead their cause.
He shall surely plead the call of the 12 tribes of Israel.
That he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon.
And he will give us our homeland, and he will destroy our enemies. That's what that's saying. Y'all all right? All right, so I'm going to end it there. And all praise to the Most High. I hope y'all got something out of this class. Okay, all praises.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission, minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold, from Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.